The frosted glass was still not clear enough. Make it clear for me. Duan Yun accelerated the frequency once again, nearly integrating the 9 shallow 1 deep breathing method into his body's instincts. At this moment, he still hadn't realized that the blue light in his pupils had already overflowed, forming a stream of blue light. After half a cup of tea's time, Duan Yun blinked his rather dry eyes, then exclaimed with emotion, "It's done!" Yes, the window paper had transformed from frosted glass to clear glass. Even if this glass was still not perfect, with some minor fine marks, it didn't hinder Duan Yun's view of the outside. He directly pushed open the room door and walked into the courtyard. This Li Mafei's residence not only covered a wide area but was also rather luxuriously adorned. For example, the courtyard before him had a small lake. The lake's water was clear, with a verdant pine tree lying in the water's center, exuding a calming Zen mood. At this moment, the morning breeze stirred up a layer of mist over the lake's surface. Duan Yun did not hesitate, tapping his index and middle fingers on his temples, activating the pupil breathing. His pupils quickly turned blue, sweeping over the scene ahead. Suddenly, the mist before him seemed to thin. Or rather, the mist didn't thin, but his gaze pierced through it. This means he now had sharp eyes, the kind that could pry clouds and see the sun. Exploring in the clouds now, he should be able to see much more clearly. He had mastered it. This already reached what the manual described as prying clouds and seeing the sun. Duan Yun was certain he could achieve the effect of unobstructed vision. If others reached this level, they would probably be perfectly content and jubilant, not thinking of anything else. But Duan Yun was not a common person. At this moment, a bright idea struck his mind, as he thought, I've tripled the practice frequency and achieved the unobstructed vision effect. So what if I increase it 5-fold? 10-fold? Duan Yun immediately put thoughts into action. In an instant, the blue light burst from his eyes, scanning everything around. Besides being better at penetrating the white mist, there seemed to be no change. At this time, Li Mafei's third and fourth wives were holding freshly washed clothes to dry. Duan Yun watched them, showing a puzzled expression. He wasn't confused about their clothes becoming semi-transparent. Young hero Duan wasn't interested in that. He was puzzled by their movements. He felt their movements were slow, just like a video played at 0.5x speed. Damn, my eyes aren't broken, are they? Duan Yun quickly closed his eyes and started doing eye exercises to rest them. He stopped the pupil skill and looked at Li Mafei's 2 wives again, finding them back to normal. Duan Yun swiftly turned around, leaving the residence and arriving on the street, where he activated the pupil skill. In an instant, the street not only became much clearer, but people's movements also slowed down. Duan Yun immediately understood and said, "It's not that they slowed down, it's me who sped up." Yes, operating this room pupil technique at 10 times efficiency even affected his brain, making him think faster so everything seemed slower. What an excellent technique! This time, Duan Yun was satisfied with this pupil skill. Again, a bright idea flashed in his mind, thinking, since increasing it to 10 times already has such effects, what if I increase it to 100 times? 100 times isn't enough. What about 1,000 times? Duan Yun once again put thoughts into action. Moments later, Duan Yun took a step forward, his chest vibrating along with his head, making him look like a character lagging in a game. After that, he closed his eyes, confirming that indeed there were limits to human capacity. This 9 shallow 1 deep breathing speed wasn't considered slow by cultivation technique standards. Increasing it 10-fold relied on robust breathing techniques and talent, but beyond 10-fold, his respiratory system couldn't keep up. Even though he tried and got stuck, he still couldn't climb further. This made Duan Yun realize one thing. Breathing frequency has limits for humans, and even he is no exception. Right now, the most suitable frequency was 10-fold, which could both pry clouds and see the sun, and speed up his gaze. Duan Yun let out a long breath, only to find 2 women beside him looking at him with surprise and fear. Duan Yun thought there might be something on his face, or perhaps the women recognized him and wanted the hero's autograph. So he couldn't help but say, "Do you have any matters?" As he prepared to sign, the woman on the left anxiously said, "Your eyes. My eyes." Duan Yun quickly found a puddle on the street and checked. Even he was startled by what he saw. At this time, he had already ended the pupil technique, but he still saw that his pupils were blue. Duan Yun once again moved his energy. Finding the blue light immediately surged, like a stream of light fluttering at the corners of his eyes. "It's quite handsome, just a bit strange." Duan Yun tidied his hair and said. This looked like an eye-catching light effect. Duan Yun withdrew his pupil technique and walked back. This was the appointed time for a follow-up consultation with the Murong brothers. He said there was no big issue, but the Murong brothers valued his brother highly and insisted on the follow-up. Duan Yun thought about the blue light his pupils emitted, and an idea flashed in his mind as he entered the door. The Murong brothers were already sitting in a chair, waiting for Duan Yun to arrive. Duan Yun was late, and they kept looking around. At that moment, Duan Yun walked in, and just as the Murong brothers were about to complain, they saw Duan Yun's pupils glowing blue, almost tangible. And Duan Yun's gaze happened to fall on their crotch, making the Murong brothers feel as if the tangible light penetrated their crotch, prompting them to look down. The next moment, the Murong brothers frantically patted their crotch and leaped up. "Fire! Why is it on fire?" The Murong brothers found their crotch was on fire, shifting from red to blue, while a voice in their head said, "I want to be a hero. Save my bird." The Murong brothers rolled on the ground, trying to extinguish the fire. The next moment, they suddenly stopped. It was not just because they didn't feel the burning pain, which was a bit strange, but also because they realized and jabbed themselves with a finger. This jab caused blood to flow from their shoulder, and simultaneously, the burning flame in their crotch disappeared. "You brat, you're playing with me." Yes, Duan Yun could create illusions in broad daylight using the big perverted jade from the Moon Palace, called dream building. In fact, the Jade Pearl heroes had been specially trained by Duan Yun and were somewhat cautious of his ability, like their brain experiencing a mild tremor. But this time, Duan Yun's eyes first emitted a blue light, as if tangible. This blue light wasn't an illusion and didn't cause a brain tremor, catching the Murong brothers off guard. The key was that this gaze was as sharp as electricity, making people easily reveal their fears, which is why the Murong brothers realized it only now. In Duan Yun's eyes, the Murong brothers' actions of patting their crotch and dancing were comical. This hilarity wasn't just in their movements but also because of the slow motion. In this slow motion, he could even see the muscles on the Murong brothers' faces twitch and change into hundreds of micro-expressions. Duan Yun said, "All right, the follow-up is over, you're fine." The Murong brothers retorted, "You didn't even look." Duan Yun retorted, "You punched yourself a few times and were fine. What's there to see?" The Murong brothers realized and said, "Oh right," but to consolidate the effect, they hurriedly assumed a horse stance and practiced chi cultivation with the jade sword stance. Tianzhou, deep in the Gu family estate. Since the young master's wife was captured by old demon Duan, young master Gu Dil hadn't appeared, and the depths of the Gu family estate remained as silent as a tomb. At this moment, a rumbling sound erupted, like thunder, followed by the thunderous sound turning into swish, 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 as if innumerable darts were flying through the air. The frequency of this swish, swish, swish was incredibly high, even higher than the Tangsek's Pride, the Rainstorm Pear Blossom Needle, during its launch, which didn't have such a high frequency and continuous sound. The entire Gu estate was engulfed in this sound, making both humans and animals instinctively uneasy, as if the air was full of holes and their bodies would also become full of holes. Soon, the swish, swish, swish sound turned into a dense da-da-da. "The young master has come out of retreat. Divine skill unmatched." A powerful voice rang out, and over a dozen gusts of wind appeared deep in the Gu family estate. Tornadoes. More than a dozen tornadoes soared up from the ground, their momentum astonishing. And the most attention-grabbing was the one in the center, because it was pink. "Gu family disciples, heed my command." From the air, a commanding voice echoed. As the Gu family disciples kneeled, They looked up to see the long-lost young master and his 17 arhats. They saw the young master with twin pink ponytails spinning wildly, the whole person floating in the air, emitting the da-da-da sound, accompanied by a pink tornado. Like a god, the young master has mastered the divine skill. The wife is saved. Old demon is doomed. The whirlwind around the ancient Gu family residence finally began to slowly stop after lasting long enough for 2 cups of tea. Even after it stopped, the pink pigtails of the Gu family's young master continued to emit a pink glow. That's the strength of power, the purest form of the 10-break ancient strength. It's truly a powerful strength of power. The knowledgeable members of the Gu family couldn't help but shed tears of joy, never expecting to witness the day when the 10-break ancient strength would reappear. It's unexpected that it would be in the hands of the young master. One can only say that the young master is truly the most extraordinary talent of the Gu family across generations. Even though the Gu family today is deeply rooted, powerful, and as wealthy as a golden mountain, they still fall short compared to the original Gu family. It's important to know that the Gu family and the predecessor of the Hua family were the strongest Mo sect, truly the #1 force in the martial world, and even the emperor had to kneel before the family head. Now, witnessing the reappearance of the ancient power, they couldn't deny that destiny was on their side. The young master will undoubtedly lead the Gu family to greatness once again. This transformation is truly delightful. To know that just a day before, the morale of the entire Gu family was at a low point. Because for thousands of years, the seldom humiliated Gu family was suffering great humiliation. The important industry of the Gu family, Wangchun City, was not only occupied and transformed into a demon cave by old demon Duan, but even the young master's wife was publicly beaten to the ground by old demon Duan while acting for heaven, urinating on the spot, and imprisoned by him for months, leaving her fate unknown. Whether it's Wangchun City or the young master's wife, known as Tianzhou's greatest treasure, they both represented the face of the Gu family. During this period, it was as if old demon Duan was slapping the face of the Gu family with the sole of a shoe. And the Gu family had not offered any powerful counterattack, or rather what was called a counterattack was weak, merely hiring some sycophants to disparage the atrocities of old demon Duan, cursing for his death by lightning, wishing that old demon Duan would be struck dead. But cursing the enemy to be struck by lightning, or stabbed to death by a self-crafted voodoo doll, are usually acts of the weak, and since when did the Gu family tolerate such humiliation? In the martial world, while others might not overtly speak, who knows how much they have internally belittled the Gu family, claiming it is without talent. This decline in prestige even affected the Gu family's business. In the past, the Gu family conducted business with an 8-2 split, and others did not dare raise any objections. Nowadays, there were even people daring to propose a 7-3 split. This equates to handing over the Gu family's silver, a clear violation of the Gu family's ancestral discipline which would bring about divine retribution. But from this moment, these insightful elders of the Gu family understand that the tide has turned. The Gu family will reclaim all that belongs to it, and even more. The threshold of the Gu family will once again be shining with gold, and will rise to greatness once more. Thinking of this, they couldn't help but hold their proud chests high with tears filling their eyes. At this moment, the young master of the Gu family, Gu Dil, began to initiate the address. I will say a few words briefly. The young master, Gu Dil, looked down upon the people with an imposing face. During this period, some evil demon and cults took advantage of my closed-door seclusion, launching a challenge against the dignity of the Gu family while I was unaware. As you all know, my wife, the first treasure of Tianzhou, has been captured, her brilliance dimmed, a fairy tarnished, bringing shame on the Gu family. Everyone knows, I dearly love my wife, and even though she has been captured by the old demon for a long time, I still love her deeply. At this moment, Gu Dil, adorned with pink twin tails, was already teary-eyed, continuing, I love her not only because she is the greatest treasure of Tianzhou, brightening the Gu family's face, but also because she is my wife. My wife is the woman of the Gu family, and as disciples of the Gu family, what does that make her to you? Answer me. What does that make her to you? Gu Dil yelled. He stared fixedly at one of the Gu family disciples in front and asked once more, "Answer me!" Faced with the young master's inquiry, the Gu family disciple was evidently nervous, but he knew he could not keep the young master waiting at such a moment, so instinctively, he straightened his chest and instinctively replied, "She is also our wife, everybody's wife." Upon hearing this, everyone was taken aback for a moment. Then their eyes widened. What does it mean by everybody's wife? Those familiar with this particular Gu family disciple knew the lad was not very articulate, and being asked by the young master in such a tense situation, nervousness was inevitable, but who could have predicted he would fumble like this? Gu Dil was also momentarily stunned, his face turning green shortly thereafter. Immediately, one pigtail on his right side surged forward, striking towards that disciple. The disciple stood there confused, wholly unaware of what transpired. Alternatively, others too didn't comprehend what had occurred. The next instant, this disciple's body suddenly levitated, then exploded into flesh chunks before everyone. This is the 10-break ancient strength. 1 strength shattering 10. 10 breaking the heavens. The knowledgeable members of the Gu family exclaimed in awe. What delighted them even more was that in an instant, the disciple burst not just with 10 breakages, but with dozens. This meant that the young master, with a casual move, unleashed multiple forms of desolate ancient strength. The reason they didn't see this 10-break ancient strength being imbued was solely because the young master's speed was too great. Among all martial arts, speed breaks all. Combine speed with 10-break, and it becomes unbeatable. Witnessing this scene, an experienced elder of the Gu family couldn't help but express, "Seeing a living 10-break ancient strength in one's lifetime, it's worth dying for." At this moment, facing the crowd, Gu Dil asked once again, "So what does she represent to you?" This time, several highly conscientious disciples of the Gu family rushed to reply, "She is the young master's wife, and even more, our mistress." Upon hearing this answer, Gu Dil's expression slightly softened. "Mistress! Mistress!" The voice of the entire Gu family echoed in unison. At this moment, the clattering sound reappeared as Gu Dil and the 17 Arhats' hair whips began to spin once more. 8,000 disciples of the Gu family, listen to my command. Kill old demon Duan. Destroy Wangchun City. Save the mistress. Let Wangchun City be buried alongside for the humiliation my wife has suffered. Ing, I am willing to destroy everything for you. Hearing the young master's words, the Gu family disciples shouted in unison. Kill old demon Duan. Destroy Wangchun City. Save the mistress. Kill old demon Duan. Destroy Wangchun City. Save the mistress. Kill old demon Duan. Destroy Wangchun City. Save the mistress. Clickety-clack. Amidst the loud cries of the Gu family disciples, Gu Dil and the 17 Arhats' twin tails spun rapidly, forming a whirlwind, soaring into the sky, heading towards Wangchun City. Invincible! This time, the morale of the entire Gu family surged. This was the long-awaited moment of counterattack. However, there were still calm Gu family disciples pondering. Wangchun City is our property. It's fine to take it back. Why destroy it? At that moment, someone beside them answered, You fool! If Wangchun City is destroyed, won't it need to be rebuilt? If it isn't rebuilt, it means the court is neglectful and doesn't give us face. In that area of Wangchun City, does the court have such guts? Besides, who dares to take on the reconstruction project other than us? In and out. Isn't the court's silver going into our pockets? Upon hearing this, the person beside them revealed a look of sudden realization. So it's all about making money. This is truly the essence of the Mo sect and the Gu family behind it. The person couldn't help but silently lament. If it's all about making money, just be honest about it. Claiming it's for the wife or love, this young master is really hypocritical. He had worked like an ox and a horse for the Gu family for over 10 years, yet never saw a day of advancement. Now that he figured it out, he realized he was too honest. Not possessing the art of speech like the Mo sect naturally kept him from rising. And the Gu family disciple who was just killed by the young master was his friend, also not good at speaking, resulting in unforeseen disaster. But the man didn't have time to grieve over this, because the Gu family had already begun to gather people, responding to the young master's orders. He had no complaints, because at the thought of the Gu family, under the young master's lead, taking down old demon Duan to restore their prestige, even achieving greater glory, his chest couldn't help but swell, and he even hummed softly. Indeed, when even the maggots in the Gu family cesspool are stronger than outsiders, what complaints could he have as a servant in the Gu family? Charge! All at once, the members of the old Gu family estate moved, following the young master towards Wangchun City. Their footsteps were urgent, as if racing towards a glorious tomorrow, because what the young master meant by destroying Wangchun City was to burn, kill, loot, and there couldn't be a better time than this. The 8,000 Gu family disciples that Gu Dil spoke of actually weren't 8,000. That was the number of Gu family disciples a century ago, because not just anyone could become a disciple of the Gu family, whether working outside or washing toilets inside. They had to be adept at whatever they did. For instance, the toilets in the old Gu family estate were handled by a Gu family disciple trained in water cloud hand and tongue will skill. It's said that the toilets cleaned by him were immaculate, and a Gu family disciple would openly scoop a ladle of water from the toilet and drink it. This is also why the thousands of Gu family members could enslave hundreds of thousands of people. It could be said that hundreds of thousands were the money-making machines of the Gu family. And Wangchun City, being one of the most prosperous cities owned by the Gu family, if it changed hands, it could be said that it touched the Gu family's lifeline. This battle was inevitable. The Gu family disciples may not number 8,000, but the Jianghu people related to the Gu family's business certainly exceeded 80,000. Thus, the news of the Gu family young master's mastery of divine skill, intent on killing old demon Duan and rescuing the young master's wife Lei Ying, who had been tormented by the old demon, spread rapidly. This became yet another major event in the martial world. The bloodthirsty storyteller suddenly became more excited than the disciples of the Mo sect. One must know, even after Lei Ying was forced to her knees and humiliated by old demon Duan, they resorted to various methods to slander old demon Duan and Wangchun City, but the results couldn't lie, and they were always fighting an uphill battle. They hated fighting uphill battles. Now the situation had changed. That the Gu family young master could openly settle accounts with old demon Duan naturally meant he had a full mastery of divine skill and complete confidence. Someone couldn't help but doubt. Wasn't the young master's wife Lei Ying also very flamboyant before, and now who knows how many times she's been toyed with by old demon Duan? Nonsense. The young master Gu Dil was born a demon child, managing the Gu family for many years, with extraordinary insight. How could a careless wife compare to him? At the end of the day, it's still a man's martial world. Nonsense. Believe it or not, I'll cut out your tongue and report you for harassment. A woman with squinty eyes wielding a sword sternly rebuked. Then a woman wearing brass knuckles stood up to support. Do you know how to tell a story? We women have long awakened. If you dare speak nonsense, can you withstand my punch with 10 years of power? The storyteller couldn't help but defend. I was just giving an analogy. To hell with your analogy, this martial world grants you half the sky. It was we women being humble, and here you are drawing analogies. Men are truly disgusting and shameless. How can you curse all men? So what if I curse them? What's so great about men? I'm from the Black Spring sect. Are you sure you want to curse me? Ah, so you're a good brother from the Black Spring sect, my apologies. I was cursing only ordinary men. You're entirely different. You're the manliest men, the ones we admire the most, especially your Hay brothers, simply gods. The Black Spring sect was a sect that drifted in from overseas, with the sect leader and core elders having pitch-black skin. People likened them to large black monkeys, though some women were exceedingly fond of them. Later, since the Black Spring sect specialized in finding and extracting black oil, they forged close relationships with many major sections. After taking root here, they recruited some local disciples who also became formidable. It's said that in the towns surrounding the Black Spring sect, half of the people began to look like black monkeys. Some despised this, finding it ominous, while others flocked to it eagerly. What's so great about the Black Spring sect? This is you state. Do you think you're in high state? Why? Does this brother take offense because this beautiful girl admires me? Beautiful girl, more like a pig snout, squinty-eyed hag, only you would fancy her. Besides, looking at you, you're not a purebred big black monkey either. My master is purely black. So I'm also black. Who are you calling a hag? Believe it or not, I'll beat you up. She immediately switched her tone to speak to the person beside her. Hey brother, the men in you state are just jealous of you and me. Several wanted to court me before, and I didn't care for any of them, just found them disgusting. Screw you, ugly hag and fake black monkey. Get the hell out. Why should we leave? For a moment, the tea house was in chaos. The storyteller tried several times to interject, saying old Demon Duan was bound to die, was not righteous, was worse than a pig or dog, waiting to be slaughtered by the Gu family young master, but he couldn't get a word in at all, because these people bickered endlessly, arguing over men and women, beauty and ugliness, and regional prejudices, only returning to gender debates later. In short, the entire martial world was lively again, from south to north, from west to east. The roads leading to Wangchun City suddenly filled with people, mostly Jianghu people eager for excitement. But some Jianghu people were quite different. In a secret room of a tea house 80 miles outside Wangchun City, dozens of people, either solemn or filled with righteous indignation, sat together discussing important matters. Some wore nearly transparent red dresses. Some had metal tubes inserted into their heads. Some wore knee-high white socks, and others were shrouded completely in black robes, exposing only their eyes. The women in red dresses were naturally from the Red House. Those with metal tubes were Thunder listeners from the Thunder God and Mother sect. Those in white socks were elite from the White Sock Divine sect. And those in black robes were top assassins from the Netherworld Mountain Villa. They gathered for the shared purpose of having suffered persecution from old Demon Duan. Thus, they organized together and stood united against a common enemy. This time our alliance consists of elites, all with irreconcilable hatred toward old Demon Duan, leaving us no retreat. As an elder of the Red House, I am willing to represent everyone and meet with the Gu family young master, forming the strongest demon extermination alliance to destroy both the old demon and the demon nest. Gu Dil, riding the speed of his twin pigtails, was incredibly fast, so fast that he was making history. From Tianzhou to Yun State, even the sect leader of the 1,000 Miles capital city sect, who was famous for leg skills, would need 10 days to half a month to arrive. But Gu Dil only needed 6 days. Every step he takes now is a giant leap for the martial world. Because his 10-break ancient strength is invincible. The rotating pink twin pigtails atop his head now can be said to be the most formidable weapon in the world, bar none. They will be stained with old Demon Duan's blood and life, becoming stepping stones to his pinnacle. On the 5th day, Gu Dil arrived in Yu State and stopped. He wasn't waiting for his subordinates. He didn't need them to kill old Demon Duan. He was waiting for momentum. The news of his crossing 4 states in 5 days had spread, but not widely enough, not yet known to all under heaven. The Gu family had been hidden behind the scenes for too long. It was time for the world to remember its terrifyingness, especially challengers like old Demon Duan, who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. It must be said, the effect of Gu Dil crossing several states at high speed was excellent. With the shouts of Gu family trumpets and the bloodthirsty storyteller, it can be said that half of the martial world was stirred. Gu family trumpets and the bloodthirsty storyteller naturally extolled Gu Dil to the skies, calling it the speed of a god, unrivaled, while the Jianghu people debated animatedly. This Gu family young master delivering goods, isn't it profitable to the point of tears? Definitely. 10 horses couldn't catch up with that speed. A naturally gifted delivery sacred body. Nonsense. Only you lowly people would think of delivering goods. It's as laughable as an emperor digging with a gold hoe. Doesn't the emperor use a gold hoe to dig? I know this one. That year Zhuzhou had a great disaster. The late emperor once encouraged the people to work hard on farming, so that they could pay the grain taxes after harvesting, He personally displayed imperial farming using a gold hoe. Outside Wangchun City, the Old Demon Victims Alliance quickly reached a consensus, electing Hong Hong, the great elder of the Red House, as the leader to go to Yu State to find the Gu family young master for alliance. They seemed quite excited, only sighing that heaven finally had eyes, and that old demon Duan would eventually suffer a great blow. It can only be said that the previous demon-slaying conference failed because they did not unite together. Now the Victims Alliance was numerous, and they were prominent sects in the martial world, with the added strength of the Gu family young master, who had completed his divine skill. By what means could old demon Duan fight with them? He doesn't have that ability, you know? Do you really think he has 3 heads and 6 arms? One White Sox mocked. In their eyes, once the alliance was formed, old demon Duan could only wait for death. This is called many unvirtuous deeds bring about self-destruction. Who told him to offend so many people and make such a big fuss, even daring to capture the #1 treasure of Tianzhou, the Gu family lady. The group of victims grew more enthusiastic as they talked, and in just a few days they had become close friends due to their similar experiences. But Hong Hong, the great elder of the Red House, broadened her heart to seek the Gu family alliance, but quickly returned nearly unclothed. Red House's Qinggong was unique, and Yun State and Yu State were neighboring, so returning so quickly was reasonable. But the result obtained by the Old Demon Victims Alliance was not satisfactory. No other reason the Gu family young master refused them. The Gu family young master said bluntly to their face, "What is your status? To negotiate an alliance with me? Is your tower master dead?" Then, the Gu family young master further boldly declared, "With my skills now, even if one hand holds Wangchun City, the other backs against Qingqing Mountain, I can still easily kill old demon Duan. What need is there to ally with a bunch of defeated opponents?" Hong Hong, the great elder of the Red House, initially wanted to retort, "As if your Gu family wasn't a bunch of defeated opponents? And who knows how many times your lady was played with by old demon Duan?" But ultimately didn't speak, because she could feel Gu Dill's overwhelming presence. One slip of the tongue could invite death. Secondly, her status was indeed vastly different from that of Gu Dill. In terms of Jianghu status, it indeed required the Tower Master to be able to match the Gu family young master. Their disdain was quite normal. In this world, the humiliation of lower status by the higher is a natural order. This alliance, missing the strongest Gu family young master, plunged everyone into a deadlock instantly. White Sox scratched the leg hair visible through his socks and asked, "The Gu family young master doesn't want to ally, so what do we do?" Hong Hong, the great elder of the Red House, pondered, "Even if he doesn't want to ally, our goal remains the same, to make old demon Duan die. He'll fight his fight, we'll fight ours. So how should we fight? With the Gu family young master so overwhelmingly bold, I see a great chance that the old demon will be beaten to death. Even if not dead, he will be gravely injured. Then we all swarm upon him. How could he survive? Old demon gravely injured old demon." The group mumbled this phrase, their expressions odd. The phrase old demon gravely injured had become tiresome to their ears, and it often ended with someone else's death, which they were also tired of hearing. The term had become like a curse, not a good omen, and this gave them pause. This pause made everyone want to shield themselves behind one another, making it difficult for the Old Demon Victims Alliance to kill the old demon. The truth of the matter was that their leaders lacked motivation. If it were the Red House Tower Master, the new sect leader of Thunder God and Mother, the sect hierarch of White Sock Divine Sect, or the great Manor Master of Netherworld Mountain Villa discussing the alliance, it might have succeeded. All the experts in the martial world had lofty pride, considering those above them as equals, and those below strictly subservient, with others having just mastered their divine skill. Not wanting to bring you along is perfectly normal. The reason these people didn't come is probably because they didn't want to give it their all. Or perhaps the time wasn't right. In fact, at this point, those sects that had been devastated by old demon Duan held less animosity towards him. Especially sects like the Red House. When old demon Duan first emerged, the first to be targeted were the Red House and the Thunder God and Mother sect. It was then that they hated old demon Duan the most, because old Demon Duan was a newcomer, unknown in reputation. Yet he managed to defeat them so severely, making them look bad in front of their martial world peers and significantly diminishing their status and repute. As time went on, for each expert that old Demon Duan killed and each sect he destroyed, they oddly felt a little pleased. Look, even the manor and sub-branch manor masters of Netherworld Mountain Villa were wiped out. You see, even the entire Huangshan sword sect was splattered with urine and annihilated. Look, even the heavenly king of the White Sock Divine sect was killed. When compared like this, doesn't it make their defeat seem less disgraceful? Yes, the more significant old demon's reputation became, the less detestable their failure appeared. Conversely, the Red Mansion Fairy could even afford to be a little proud. Our sect, without much initial experience, held out against old Demon Duan for so long. What about you? With so much experience and caution, those who should have died still died, and those sects that should have been exterminated were still exterminated. The status in the martial world is not timeless, it is relative. Although our humiliating defeat is undoubtedly painful, the success of peers stings even more. It's obvious that the once united alliance of victims is now a bit divided. The White Sock God sect, being the most recent victims of Old Demon's severe blow, is evidently in the throes of hatred. The elder of White Socks looked at everyone furiously and said, if Old Demon is severely injured, I will certainly step up and kill him. You cowardly folks bring shame to associate with such cowardice. With that, he left with his people. After Gua Heavenly King's death, there was an opening among the 4 Heavenly Kings, and this elder wanted to take a gamble. If he could kill the severely injured old demon, he would naturally advance further and become the new Heavenly King. Coincidentally, his surname was also Gua. Because of this, although he was revered as an elder despite his age, he had been mocked as Gua Heavenly King's son. Now fate has given him a chance to become Gua Heavenly King's father. With the departure of the White Sock God sect, the spats within the victim alliance naturally grew larger. The assassins of Netherworld Mountain Villa, still shrouded in black robes, said, as long as there is enough silver, we'll kill the severely injured old demon. The elder from the Red House sneered and said, your manor was destroyed, your manor master killed, and despite such humiliation, you still ask for silver to kill your enemy? The gold assassin followed with a sneer. It was the second manor destroyed, the second manor master killed. What does this have to do with our main manor? If you don't want to pay, don't expect top-tier assassins like us to take action. The gold of a gold assassin is the gold of gold coins. Saying that, several assassins shrouded in black robes from Netherworld Mountain Villa also left. Originally, the room was crowded, but suddenly only the Red House girls and the Madman Lay from the Thunder God and Mother sect remained. That is, the initial persecutors of Old Demon Duan. Fate has made them confront each other again. The two groups had once joined forces, successfully using their lives to make Old Demon Duan famous during the battle at the graveyard. And now only they remained, making the atmosphere somewhat awkward. The Red Mansion Fairy was good at easing awkwardness. At such times, just a slight flirtation could fulfill the camaraderie of peers and eradicate the awkwardness. But the Red Mansion Fairy greatly despised Madman Lay. Madman Lay was not only unattractive, but he also had 2 iron rods stuck in his head, making them feel disgusted, and they could not bring themselves to lower their waists. Hong Hong, the great elder of the Red House, said, what do you think? The leader of the Thunder God and Mother sect said, the new sect leader has descended, and with the divine prophecy received early, the day of the avalanche of thunder will be the day Old Demon dies. Without any allies, we can still kill Old Demon. Having said that, they also left. The room was suddenly filled only with the scantily clad fairies of the Red House. Their thin clothes fluttered in the wind, filling the room with a flavor of loneliness. The victim alliance had come quickly and gone quickly, with the fastest and most complex changes in mood. Some of the allies, who went their separate ways, suddenly looked up to Wangchun City, internally muttering, Old Demon Duan, hang in there, don't die at the hands of the Gu family. Yes, if the young master of the Gu family succeeds in this endeavor, they will forever be overshadowed by the Gu family. and when their head sees the young master, he'll probably have to kneel and become a bench. This is the humiliation winners inflict on losers. But, with a twist in their minds, they felt uneasy, lamenting, "Is this right? Why do we want to support old Demon Duan, who made us suffer terribly?" Sitting in a restaurant, eating braised lion's head and listening to the talks of the martial world people, I found myself truly enlightened. Turns out the emperor really used a golden hoe to dig earth. These days I wasn't particularly nervous, but Feng Linger and the others were quite sensitive. In the morning, the Murong brothers solemnly said, "This will be the greatest challenge since the establishment of heroic land." Duan Yun quipped, "The last time when some young master's woman came, you said the same thing." The Murong brothers explained, "That Laying was weaker than expected, but this young master from the Gu family is a real genius." "A genius compared to me?" The Murong brothers hesitated for a moment and said, "The other party dares to bet all the honor of the Gu family, coming so grandiosely to challenge you. He must have truly mastered the divine skill and is confident of defeating you. From top to bottom, no one in the Gu family is mediocre. Wangchun City must strengthen its defense." Feng Linger said with a stern face. Duan Yun could see that the group of heroes was quite tense. And this young master of the Gu family, who has only just arrived, does seem quite capable. Is there really confidence to defeat me? I really want to know the answer. When this thought emerged, Duan Yun finished eating the braised lion's head and asked the waiter to send a message, then left. The Murong brothers group learned of Duan Yun's message in the afternoon. The storm was about to come, and they were busy preparing for the upcoming events. When they heard the news, they were stunned. "What did he say?" Feng Linger said in surprise. "Young hero Duan said he's going ahead to finish off that young master and leaving the rest to you all. He also said that he hasn't done well as the leader of this group of heroes. He just needs to go and smash the enemy, and you all have much more to consider." The Murong brothers had started scratching their heads, groaning, "He really went." Duan Yun left in a hurry this time, and little Een, his steed, wasn't ridden. For a moment, it felt somewhat lost and said, "So what do we do?" Feng Linger, with the demeanor of a lady in charge, said, "Of course, we guard Wangchun City well. The Gu family has many experts. Didn't he say? He just wants to smash that young master, while we have much more to consider." At this moment, she suddenly remembered something and said, "I need to go back to Yuzhu Manor." Ning Qing asked, "Why?" Feng Linger said, "Hostage. The Gu family is about to go to war with us, and someone may come to rescue Bitch Lei." With that, she hurried back. During this period, due to the many affairs Wangchun City had to handle, Big White sometimes went out to help, and there weren't many people guarding Yuzhu Manor. After all, it was already rumored to be the abyss hell of old Demon Duan's enjoyment and slaughterhouse of Star Fury, and no one dared to come. In fact, apart from a cellar without traps, there was really nothing there. When Feng Linger arrived at Yuzhu Manor, her expression sank. The door of the cellar was indeed open. Bitch Lei and leopard-spotted Bitch were rescued, but as she approached the entrance, she heard Bitch Lei's voice. "Madam, hurry up and leave with us. This is the best opportunity." "I will not leave with you. Tell Gu Dil that I, Lei Ying, deserve only to be owned by the strong. If she can defeat old Demon Duan, I will still be her wife. If he loses to old Demon Duan, then my esteemed title as Tianzhou's #1 beauty belongs solely to old Demon Duan." Lei Ying spoke resolutely, demonstrating her firmest determination. Almost at the same time, Feng Linger's red face sword was already unsheathed, as she cursed, "You bitch, fantasizing absurdly," as she charged in with her sword. Seeing Feng Linger holding a sword as beautiful as a flower branch charging in, the Gu family servant who came to rescue couldn't help but shout, "Protect the madam!" As soon as the words dropped, only a swooshing sound was heard. The sword light was like a rainbow, and the man already hit by the sword fell to the ground. Another man saw this and, without any hesitation, threw his body to the ground, grabbed his fallen companion in an instant, and, with a flurry of leg movements, turned into a shadowy figure, carrying his companion with him, forming a massive arc as they swiftly bypassed Feng Linger and rushed outward. Feng Linger wielded her sword once more, but the man already tossed his companion to block the sword. Yes, he wasn't carrying his companion to save him, but as a meat shield. Damn you! With a swish, before his companion could finish cursing, he was sliced in half by the red-face sword Qi. The man took the opportunity to reach the cellar door, but Feng Linger's sword Qi, seemingly tireless, swept over again like flourishing flowers. Although his body rolled out, his legs were left behind. Since becoming the red-face heroine, especially after being spurred by Duan Yun's improvement, Feng Linger's swordsmanship had advanced by leaps and bounds. Can only be said that having a peerless genius constantly spur you, you can't slack off even if you wanted to. But this man was also quite formidable. Even without his legs, he was crawling with his hands quickly. They were the strongest of the third generation of the Thousand Miles Capital City sect, one of the most favored disciples by sect leader Zhao Chengdong, inheriting the skill of running without legs to some extent. While using his hands to move swiftly and leaping over the wall, the man shouted back, "Madam, hold on. I will come back to rescue you." Ah! Before he could finish speaking, a barking sound was heard, and a large black and white figure soared over, completely shrouding his half-body. With a thud, Big White brought him down with the force of a mountain, pinning him under. The man bled from 7 orifices, unable to run anymore. "Good job, Big White." Feng Linger praised Big White, and in the next moment, her sharp sword was already pressed against Lei Ying's neck, greeting, "Bitch, still sticking around and not leaving?" Instead, Lei Ying extended her white neck further and said, "You want to kill me? Is it wrong for someone like me to admire powerful men? Shameless second-hand woman, by your logic, do you mean you would follow any man stronger in the future?" Lei Ying denied. "Of course not, at least he must be young and pleasing to the eye. I am Tianzhou's most renowned beauty, so young and beautiful. If men are swords and women are sheaths, I am among the best sheaths in the world. What's wrong with liking a big, well-functioning, and handsome sword? Can you dare say you're not coveting his body, wanting to be his sheath?" A flicker appeared in Feng Linger's eyes, and she quickly denied, "Absolutely not. I'm not as lustful as you are. Hypocrite. I used to think you were my toughest opponent, but now it seems you might not even be as good as Ziyu." Lei Ying took the chance to fan the flames. Upon hearing this, a chill flashed in Feng Linger's eyes. Little Yin had said something similar. Ultimately, these two women, striving to climb to the top, couldn't escape such instigative acts, and in this matter, they seemed to share a telepathic connection. The sword in Feng Linger's hand pressed tighter. Lei Ying indifferently said, "If you kill me, then it's because of him. For such a man, even if I die, it's worth it. The thing men care most about is what they can't get. I think even years later, he will regret and remember this sheath he never possessed." This time, Feng Linger wasn't provoked and said, "A second-hand prisoner like you? Being so confident?" Lei Ying sneered, "All I know is, 2 powerful men are fighting over my ownership. Whether you kill me or not, it might still inspire their potential, making me a memorable part of their past." With a sharp slap, Feng Linger smacked Lei Ying across the face, who couldn't help but let out a soft groan. She had anticipated Feng Linger might become infuriated and scold her, or even stab her, but she hadn't expected this reaction from her opponent at this moment. Slapping her face and quickly regaining her composure. Beside them, even the prisoner Aunt Xue, with her leopard print outfit, took out a stash of preserved melon seeds, snacking while watching the drama unfold. It can only be said, even as a woman, she found it quite satisfying to watch 2 women quarrel. Now, Feng Linger waved her hand, letting out a cold snort. "I finally figured it out. It's not confidence, but low-level behavior. For me to consider a self-righteous low-level girl as an opponent is truly disappointing. Was your title of Tianzhou's most renowned beauty bought?" This question seemed to strike Lei Ying's reverse scale, making her face flush with anger. "You were the one bought. I'm recognized by the martial world. Recognized? Who doesn't know about the Gu family's ways? They could take a gray donkey, and with enough benefits, it would be chosen. Feng Linger mocked. At this point, Little Gray chimed in with a series of ba-ba sounds, seemingly in agreement. Nonsense. I secured my status even before marrying into the Gu family. A woman like you, no matter how good you look, doesn't understand how crucial a renowned beauty is to men. Can't be bothered with you, or rather, I'll let this low-level girl see for herself who Duan Yun's true love is. Feng Linger said, showing a relaxed demeanor. Her manner now had reverted to that of a hostess. Laying paused for a moment and then suddenly showed a realization, saying, You call me low-level, while showing such low-level behavior yourself. Can someone like Duan Yun have true love? And if he does, could it be a low-level girl like you? At this moment, Feng Linger also turned red. The two characters down there seemed to have a strange magic that could always make people blush. Shut up. You damned woman are trying to drag me down with you? As she spoke, she grabbed Lei Ying's hair and lifted her hand. Instead, Lei Ying revealed a joyful expression, holding Feng Linger's hand, saying, Hit me. The more you hit me, the better I feel. Let me tell you, no one has dared to hit me since I was young. Yet I've always wished someone would. Old Demon Duan hit me, made me feel good, and it felt best when he hit me until I lost control. That's why I care about him. The more he hits me, the more he cares about me. Shut up. Mad woman. In the next moment, Feng Linger suddenly gripped Lei Ying's neck, lifting her up. At this moment, Aunt Shue's mouth was full of the shells of sunflower seeds, almost chewing them to powder, unable to keep up with the pace of watching the drama. Just then, a thunderous sound was heard as the earth of the cellar shattered, and a coffin board burst out. As the coffin board emerged, a mist supported a female figure rising from the earth. Aunt Shue almost choked on the sunflower seed shells, shouting, Ghost! Feng Linger and Lei Ying reacted similarly, nearly embracing each other. White mist swirled, delicate strands entwined. Or rather, the three then saw clearly that it wasn't real mist, but countless snow-white, crystalline threads. Because these threads were so fine and ethereal, they gave the feeling of clouds and mist. At this moment, the white threads seemed to come alive, gradually gathering around the woman. Feng Linger reacted and said, Shining. Since returning from Qinghe City, Shining had been in the coffin, and when they arrived at Yuzhu Manor, they buried her with the coffin. Feng Linger remembered Shining wasn't buried here before, but in the backyard. This led to her being startled, thinking it was a haunting or zombie trouble. Apparently, because of the MO6 bombing, the old Yuzhu Manor was destroyed, and as it was rebuilt, Shining was reburied in the comparatively stable cellar soil. Feng Linger instinctively thought of Duan Yun. Because the cellar was Duan Yun's domain, and such secretive burial could have only been achieved with Duan Yun's absorption star skills to suck and move the soil. Uncontrollably, Feng Linger felt a surge of jealousy. At this moment, the white threads swirling in the air began to gather around Shining. As they wrapped around her legs, they seemed to transform into a crystal-clear and translucent sock, and as they wrapped around her hands, they appeared to become a kind of crystalline glove, giving a mesmerizing beauty. Especially as the white threads on her legs could outline intricate patterns, Feng Linger's eyes changed, because such a scene reminded her of Duan Yun's Dharma image. The Dharma image is a projection of a martial artist's inner preference. In other words, Duan Yun himself enjoyed that style, which was why he practiced to have such a Dharma image. At this moment, the white threads on Shun Ying's left leg swirled like ink entering water, suffusing into a crystal-clear black. That was foreboding, which meant, like Duan Yun's Dharma image, Shining could also change the black and white threads. Feng Linger couldn't help but sarcastically comment, You cunning woman. This style is against the rules. She even thought Shining went into seclusion just to cultivate such black and white threads. One could only say this was terrifyingly ingenious. This woman cultivated just to appeal to Duan Yun's preferences. So cunning. Meanwhile, Laying also showed a surprised expression, murmuring, 9 deaths silkworm heavenly dream silk? 9 deaths dream girl. When Laying was young, she became the Tianzhou's #1 artifact with considerable advantage, yet she still heard some skeptical voices. That was because the 9 deaths dream girl was gone. Only then could she become Tianzhou's #1 artifact. The 9 deaths dream girl was Tianzhou's #1 artifact 100 years ago, or rather, the 9 deaths dream girl monopolized the title of Tianzhou's #1 artifact, reportedly 6 times in a row, all chosen as the first-generation 9 deaths dream girl and her successors. But after 100 years, the 9 deaths dream girl's legacy was broken. These stubborn old men clearly meant that, when the tiger is not at home, the monkey reigns supreme. Yet she despised this kind of comment. In the martial world, there are many old-fashioned people, mostly stubborn old folks who, struggling, love to blame the world's injustice, loving to use the past to criticize the present, always thinking that the ancients were stronger than the current, as if they could fulfill their ambitions if they returned to the ancient times. Laying didn't care about these stubborn old men or the rumors about the 9 deaths dream girl. After all, the legacy was broken. If it broke, it was no more who would care about something that doesn't exist anymore. But this moment, seeing these crystalline threads wrapping around the woman, making her appear as if descending from the clouds like a fairy, she had a sense of being overshadowed. Impossible. I'm Tianzhou's #1 artifact Fire Phoenix Thunder Saint Body. Fire Phoenix out of the abyss has no defeats except against Old Demon Duan. Even if she lost to Old Demon Duan, she still maintained her pride, because she was certain even in defeat, her grace at that time was unparalleled. Yet at this moment, facing this woman emerging from the coffin, she had a sense of being overshadowed. No, it must be an illusion, and I'm not in my full state now. This woman is just trying to compare herself with me, a prisoner, without her full adornment. Laying couldn't help but silently sarcastically comment. At this moment, the 9 deaths silkworm dream silk on Shining was completely wrapped. She emerged from the coffin, looking around, saying, Feng Linger, when did I come back? Who are these two? While speaking, she looked at Laying and Aunt Shui. Feng Linger turned her mind and said, Guess. Aunt Shui was still rubbing her neck that was stuck with sunflower seed shells, while Laying puffed out her chest, in an arrogant posture. Shining glanced at Aunt Shui with disgust. This woman looks tacky. Aunt Shui was so angry she nearly fainted, managing the sunflower seed shells while silently sarcastically commenting, You're the one who came up from the earth, saying that this beauty from Snow Mountain is tacky. Then, Shining looked at Laying, continuing with disdain. The ones here are presumably prisoners, judging by this look, probably of the same ilk as that Huangshan heroine, thinking themselves still charming despite their age. At this moment, Laying was about to burst, yelling, Who are you calling old? How can that extinguished Huangshan girl even compare to me? I'm Tianzhou's #1 artifact. Xin Ying replied in disgust. Is there still this ranking in the brothel community? Laying was so mad she nearly rolled her eyes. Feng Linger was shocked for a moment, saying, You've just come out from the earth. How have you become so adept at cursing people? Xuning said in shock as she came out from the cellar. Where exactly is this? Is this still the broken and dilapidated spider-infested Yuzhu Manor? Indeed, although the rebuilt Yuzhu Manor wasn't extravagantly adorned, just normal blue tiles and black bricks, it couldn't escape that the previous version was too wrecked. Comparing the two was like they were in the immortal realm. If the graveyard still looked the same, Xuning would have thought she was still dreaming in the coffin. After Feng Linger briefly conveyed the events of the past few months to Xuning sarcastically commented, I've been asleep for less than half a year, and you've done so many big things? Things like Wangchun City changing ownership, the new heroic land, the canal project. Xuning was dumbfounded upon hearing. Is this still the martial world I'm familiar with? If Feng Linger and Big White weren't beside her, she would have thought she slept for many years and woke up to a different world. Indeed, in less than half a year, Duan Yun and the others had truly changed the world. At least the world around Wangchun City had completely changed. At this moment, Xuning stood up and walked out, Feng Linger asked, "Where are you going?" Xin Ying replied sincerely, "Going to Yu State to find Duan Yun. Haven't seen him for a while. I happen to miss him." Feng Linger stopped her, saying, "He's going to the showdown." Xin Ying seriously said, "I know precisely because of the showdown. He might need to unite well with me after such a long separation. Unite our fists. I just woke up. I don't understand anything. There are too many things you need to consider, so I won't add trouble to you here." With that, she left. At this moment, it was Feng Linger's turn to stand there panting, almost rolling her eyes in anger. She also wanted to throw everything aside to find Duan Yun for unification. Unite the two swords? But she knew it was impossible. She couldn't leave, because it was Duan Yun's task assigned to her. Just the young hero's task, why should I care so much? Duan Yun could step up to the sky with his left foot on his right, reaching the clouds to look for aliens, so naturally, traveling to Yu State City was not slow for him. Logically speaking, Xin Ying, who had just emerged from the coffin, shouldn't catch up with Duan Yun, who had already progressed for several months. However, as they say, 3 days apart makes one look at a person with new eyes. Duan Yun can ascend with his left and right feet, and now that Xin Ying has risen from the coffin, she too has a brand new way of traveling. She floated lightly in the air, her body like smoke or mist, whether it was her hands silk or her legs silk. With a single leap, she could drift far away at an astonishing speed, owing to the heavenly dream silk on her which would occasionally shoot out, the white silk sticking to trees or the earth, pulling her forward acceleratedly. No, sometimes even when white silk flew into the air, it could generate a force out of nothing, carrying her forward, although less efficiently and slower compared to being attached to something solid. It could only be said that Xin Ying, having mastered the heavenly dream 9-death silkworm, now possessed the ability to fly in the air. During this period of slumber, her 9-death silkworm divine skill advanced by 2 strides to the 5th layer of heaven, and what initially required Gang Qi to drive, the 9-death silkworm silk could now be used as naturally as moving one's arm according to her will. This is the newly mastered dream silk by practicing the big dream. This sort of progress was unexpected for Xin Ying. When she was unexpectedly dragged out of the water by Duan Yun, it was actually her 3rd time dream death. That time her dream death was interrupted, not dying thoroughly, naturally delaying her cultivation level. In fact, the best way in such a situation was to supplement the dream and die another dream death. But at the time Xin Ying no longer wanted to die. In the 9-death silkworm divine skill, the death isn't actually that easy. After death, everything is extinguished, senseless and unfeeling. But Xin Ying's death was like dreaming, even having a ghost pressing the bed kind of clarity. Dreaming inside the coffin was endlessly long, not to mention the occasional moments of clarity, where she was confined in that small space, feeling nothing at all. Although she had gotten used to the sensation, she still didn't like it. It was the first time for Xin Ying that a dream death was interrupted. Afterwards, she didn't want to supplement the dream. It seemed like no problem at all, but in reality, there had been a change. Occasionally she would feel sleep-deprived, wanting to continue dying, but the time spent with Duan Yun and others was just too interesting, so she held back. How to describe this feeling of holding back? It was like being in the middle of taking a dump and being forcibly interrupted, still wanting to afterwards, but she managed to hold back. By the time she reached Qinghe City, that feeling became increasingly intense, so after Duan Yun left, she chose to die once more. She did not expect this time to die. The effect would be exceptionally good, allowing her 9-death silkworm divine skill to ascend 2 layers at once. You have to know that with the 9-death silkworm technique, each layer is harder to achieve than the last, and she didn't expect that because she had been holding it in for so long. She managed to break through 2 layers at once. It can only be said that this girl is indeed a martial arts prodigy, becoming the 9 Deaths Dream Girl, just like that. Indeed, reaching the 6th layer of the 9 Deaths Silkworm Divine Skill was becoming the 9 Deaths Dream Girl. Once ranked the top among the famous instrument lists of the world, she was the woman the Emperor dreamed of possessing. But the heritage of the 9 Deaths Dream Girl had been cut off for hundreds of years. Unexpectedly now it reemerges in Xin Ying. And reaching the 6th layer of the 9-death silkworm divine skill meant that beyond being able to command the white silk with her heart and condense evil chi into black silk, Xunying found her divine sense had transformed. Now her senses were sharper, even her mind clearer, as if possessing extraordinary wisdom. Of course, currently, the effect of her extraordinary wisdom was mainly in retorting, which is also why she could retort until Lei Ying spat blood, preventing Feng Linger from leaving, while she herself went to find Duan Yun instead. At this time, Xun Ying's right hand silk entwined, her figure shot north like an arrow. Yu State was still that Yu State. Different from Yun State, Yu State had many mountains rolling one after another. The mountains in the early morning were shrouded in mist, like a beautiful fairy with her face half hidden, while the meandering river resembled the fairy's beautiful waist belt for girding her garments. Regardless of the scene before him or this metaphor, Duan Yun thought it was beautiful. It has a poetic and picturesque beauty. But he couldn't help thinking further. If the fairy's girdle fell, the fairy's clothing should fall off too. It's all this wicked martial world's fault, corrupting my pure wisdom. There's no help for it. In this martial world, many women who claim to be fairies have some issues. From the Red House Girl to the Jade Guanyin, their actions always make people think in that way. Certain aspects of this martial world truly rival butter. Duan Yun's figure lightly and gracefully floated among the bamboo tips. As a child in a previous life, when Duan Yun watched certain martial arts movies, he felt displaying qigong in the bamboo forest was exceptionally poetic and dashing. He admired it greatly and dreamt of having similar qigong. And now for him, this had become an operation too routine to be any more routine. Because this bamboo forest was too vast, or rather, it was an endless bamboo sea. The poetic longing from his previous life had dissipated, and instead, he found the scenery a bit monotonous. This should be the largest bamboo sea within the Yu State territory, for there were countless ancient bamboos here that had been around for who knows how many years, and most had turned black. Thus it was called the Black Bamboo Sea. The Black Bamboo Sea was never lacking ghost stories. It said that the childhood nightmare tale of Xiong Jiapa, experienced by countless people in Yu State, originated from here, because the environment is so dark and secluded. When people find themselves in the Black Bamboo Forest, they always have the illusion that someone is following them or watching them secretly from the shadows. Duan Yun had ventured down there before, smelling the decay of bamboo leaves in the forest, and felt the atmosphere was off. Indeed, the Black Bamboo Forest has mercilessly claimed many lives. Even local people from Yu State, if they rashly enter the depths of the Black Bamboo Forest, may never come out again. Those who don't come out add to the local ghost stories. It is said that a child's grandfather once got lost in there, never to be seen again, neither alive nor dead. Yet the child often ran into the bamboo forest, once going especially deep. At dusk, the family noticed something unusual and rushed into the forest to search. Thankfully, the family's yellow dog recognized the child's scent and pursued it, leading them to find the child sitting on a stone in the bamboo forest. The family naturally beat and scolded the child for being naughty and thoughtless, but the child kept insisting that his grandfather was there, calling him over. Right there, Grandpa was watching me. At that moment, the child pointed at a clump of black bamboo and said this. The adults were scared stiff, breaking out in a cold sweat because when they looked in that direction, there wasn't a shred of human shadow. Eventually, the husband of the family gathered his courage and went over. After a while, the man's voice could be heard. There was indeed someone behind the bamboo, but it was a corpse. The body was mostly rotten, with a large hole in the chest, looking rather horrifying. Yet the man soon cried out, because through the torn cloth of clothing and the rotten tobacco pipe by the side, he had recognized it as his own father. The child's grandfather was really there, only dead. Afterward, they took the corpse back and had a Taoist perform rituals for several days until the matter was settled. This was the story Duan Yun heard before entering the bamboo sea. The storyteller was the leader of a caravan, suggesting that although this bamboo sea seems like a shortcut to Ishui City, saving a few days by not having to take a detour over the mountains, it is not a path for humans to tread. Few who attempt to cross the Black Bamboo Sea emerge alive. Not only does it possibly harbor man-eating beasts and monsters, The dense bamboo makes it easy for people to get lost. Additionally, there is a local saying that the black bamboo forest is where the bodhisattva closed its eyes, a territory even the immortal gods wouldn't tread, so how can humans dare to venture deep inside? And now Duan Yun is venturing in, because he wants to take a shortcut. While within the bamboo sea, he indeed feels like he's in a secluded ghostly land, matching the saying about the bodhisattva closing its eyes. This scenario actually makes Duan Yun somewhat excited, as traveling is a rather dull task. He also has an interest in matters of ghosts and gods, because he has tasted the benefits. Previously, he gained the secret technique dream building from a source palace noble, and perhaps if these things truly involve ghosts and spirits, there might be some other treasures as well. Young hero Duan likes to slay demons and bring order and justice, and equally likes to use treasures from monsters and demons on the righteous path. Unfortunately, this time he doesn't have much time to explore this thoroughly, because he is in a hurry to kill someone who wants to kill him. After a relatively long journey heading north, walking through the bamboo, the end of the place where the bodhisattva closed its eyes is finally in sight, and Duan Yun can see the households on the distant mountain ridges. Yu State is mostly mountainous, so most towns and villages are also located on the mountains. Duan Yun used his movement technique to enter this town descending from the mountain. It was just at dawn and many people in the town had not yet awakened. Everything seemed quite peaceful. Duan Yun leaped gracefully over the rooftops, like a light, agile bird. I must say, leaping over rooftops is a very special experience. Some of the people inside the houses were still asleep, while others were already up making meals with kitchen smoke rising. Duan Yun swept over their rooftops, as if sweeping over their lives. Duan Yun quite enjoyed this feeling. Could only be said it was more interesting than drifting in the bamboo forest. With a swish, Duan Yun landed in a courtyard. In the courtyard was a big beard who looked quite brave. Duan Yun landed here precisely for this reason. He wanted to ask for directions. Rashly entering someone's courtyard, a timid person might be scared out of their wits. But he miscalculated. At the moment he landed in the courtyard, that seemingly valiant big beard who was brushing his teeth with a twig suddenly sat on the ground, hugged his chest with both arms, and in a coquettish voice, pleaded, "Spare me! I won't resist if you rob my money or my body." Apparently, the reason for the excessive fear was that the muscles on his face were constantly twitching. Duan Yun quickly explained, "Don't be afraid. I won't rob your money or your body." "Then rob what?" "My man went out," Big Beard said. Duan Yun, "Just borrowing the latrine." With that, Duan Yun went to the latrine to relieve himself, and when he came out, Big Beard seemed somewhat calmer. Only then did Duan Yun ask the question he wanted to ask. Which way to Ishue City? He had received information that Gu Dil was in Ishue City. After Big Beard pointed out a direction, Duan Yun leaped away, disappearing from the courtyard. Big Beard was still shaken, and suddenly the courtyard gate made a sound and opened. Big Beard was nearly startled into jumping up. In the next moment, he saw the person who entered, a similarly big-bearded fatty. Big Beard rushed over, thumping the other on the chest a few times. "You scared me half to death just now." The sun moved over the ridges, casting golden and jade glows, revealing a mountain city before Duan Yun's eyes. Ishue City is located by the Jialing River. Because of its bustling docks and many visitors, it gradually developed into the second-largest city in Yu State. Unlike Wangchun City, which builds on flat ground, Ishue City is built against the mountains, with buildings of varying heights, showing quite a sense of layering. Duan Yun paid the entry fee and entered the city. Thinking of the silver coin he spent, Duan Yun silently kept it in mind, even taking out a small booklet to write it down. Ishue City charged me a silver coin entry fee today. In the future, I shall see if Ishue City uses it for the people or if some secretly line their own pockets. If it's the latter, families must be slain. Duan Yun almost confirmed that many major cities in the martial world have the habit of charging entry fees. The roads in Ishue City intersect mostly sloping paths. Two carriages crossing on a steep slope, the turn comes right at a cliff edge, Yet the skill of the drivers was remarkable. They managed to elegantly drift around the bend, giving the impression of man and horse being one. It must be said, driving here really requires a bit of skill. But most of what came into Duan Yun's eyes were laborers. From the docks outside the city to the steps inside the city, there were often porters with shoulder poles. They called themselves stick bearers, earning silver coin by helping to transport goods. At this time, a stick bearer stopped Duan Yun's way, asking, "Sir, need to move goods? Got family waiting for rice to cook at home." Duan Yun replied, "I don't have any goods to move." The stick bearer quickly said, "Moving people works too." With that, he folded a bamboo stool behind him, forming a chair that looked like it could carry people up the mountain. Duan Yun thought about it, then said, "All right then." He promptly sat on the chair, and the man said, "Sir, hold on tight." With that, the man straightened his body and carried Duan Yun. "Sir, where to?" Duan Yun marked the mountain. "What's that tallest tower up there?" "That's Kuei Star Tower. The best restaurant and brothel are there." Duan Yun said, "Let's go there." The stick-bearer couldn't help but laugh. "Looks like Sir is here to enjoy himself." Duan Yun gave it some thought. Demon slaying was indeed a kind of enjoyment and said, "Yes, Sir, you've come to the right place. The enjoyment spot in Yun State is Wangchun City, but it turned into a demon cave. Now our Ishui City of Yu State is the legitimate enjoyment spot for both Yun and Yu States. Girls here have everything, even those with illnesses." Duan Yun getting off halfway. The place where Gu Dil stayed was precisely the highest point in Ishui City. That Kuei Star Tower. The Kuei Star Tower was originally built by scholars for the deity Kuei Star, who dominates the literary qi. But in this world, reading no longer holds much value. In this devouring world, even if you are well versed in the 4 books and 5 classics, it does not compare to gaining strength through martial training or working as a porter here. Indeed, scholars are a profession looked down upon by even the porters of this mountain city. Thus, the building, which should have been a sacred place for scholars, was now decorated with women's clothing. From the 4th to the 10th floor, each window displayed different styles of trousers, each representing a distinct style in each room. For example, red symbolizes intense passion, while those made of only a few thin threads indicate a penchant for ostentation. Leather pants might suggest a preference for corporal punishment, while those with ink-written poems are for those who enjoy reciting classical poetry while having fun. Green pants might symbolize peculiar tastes. In short, ever since Wangchun City forbade the sale of sick women in brothels, many of the overflowing talents have flowed here, achieving the current glory of Kuei Star Tower in Ishui City. In the past, among the 2 states of Yun and Yu, Wangchun City was unparalleled in terms of eating, drinking, and gambling, overshadowing Ishui City. But ever since Wangchun City was taken over by old demon Duan, Theses' indulgences declined, making this the best place now. Numerous heroes of the martial world, upon reaching Ishui City, must undoubtedly ascend Kuei Star Tower. But now, many heroes brimming with anger can only hold it in, because the women inside have been reserved by someone. The women at the Imperial Kuei Star Tower were all exceptionally talented, and it was said that to live there, one had to be the best in their profession, carefully selected by Ishui City officials. Only the most highly regarded were given rooms and had their own stylish clothes displayed. Similarly, the women of Kuei Star Tower are the most expensive. Especially after Wangchun City, known for its high prices, turned cheap under old demon Duan's influence, Kuei Star Tower immediately took up the high-priced mantle. Increased the price, raised it ruthlessly. This is also why many people hate Duan Yun and his group. Who would have thought that Wangchun City's rules on tax-free and reduced fees could affect prices 1,000 miles away? The price rise for Kuei Star Tower's women has gone insane, to the point where many can't afford a sleep. Yet there are still those who can book the entire venue. How much silver does this take? Is this the emperor using the treasury for pleasure? Moreover, many who visit Kuei Star Tower are prominent figures, some even traveling 1,000 miles by boat to indulge. If you book the whole place, Aren't you afraid of displeasing these big shots who might retaliate? However, as the identity of the person who booked the entire tower was revealed, everything seemed reasonable. Young master of the Gu family, under the circumstances of the elders gradually withdrawing, is the new master of the Gu family, whose assets surpass even the emperor's treasury. It's quite reasonable. Moreover, the young master's divine skill has developed greatly, and this time he crossed several states in his divine body to challenge old demon Duan. This battle will not only determine the ownership of the title of the finest woman in Tianzhou claimed by the young master's wife, but also to restrain the evil trends led by old demon Duan in the martial world. Can be said, this concerns the future of the righteous path in the martial arts. In this case, why can't the young master of the Gu family enjoy himself? Who dares to object at such a time stands against the righteous path of martial arts. Young Master Gu Dilu of the Gu family is enjoying himself. Kuei Star Tower's 7 floors, 112 brothel women, all barely clothed, are now huddled in his room. This is already the largest room in Kuei Star Tower, but there's no stopping the crowd. So when you glance occasionally, you will find that the room is a vast expanse of white, dazzling to the eyes. A serving pimp couldn't help but murmur to himself, "Isn't this just for show? Who could possibly handle so many women alone?" These servants have been at Kuei Star Tower for a long time and are familiar with the trade, such as those seemingly strong men who need 3 or 4 girls at once. But their tongues turn white, and without taking medicine, they'd collapse within the time of an incense stick. Young Master Gu Dilu of the Gu family is in no way an ordinary person, yet they still see this as just a gimmick. No one can enjoy that many women. But the next moment those 2 pimps were stunned, because they saw the white women all floating up, huddled together, making strange cries, unsure if they were pleas of pleasure or pain. One curious pimp couldn't help but move closer for a peek. It was this peek that revealed something unusual. It turned out that what made the women float was clusters of pink hair. Each cluster was not thick, yet strong enough to lift the women up, and those strands could even wriggle like they're alive, wriggling with the women, making the scene look both wicked and alluring at a glance. This pimp remembered that the hair of the young master of the Gu family is pink, a mighty man like a heavenly god, yet tied with pink pigtails, deeply memorable. Could a person's hair be trained to such an extent? To such an extent, are they still human? Might as well be a monster. Before the servant could react, a cluster of pink hair suddenly came at him, dragging him inside, lifting him high. The pimp's face changed dramatically, and he said, "I'm a man! I'm a man!" Before his colleague, just as he finished his words, his whole body started trembling and making those strange cries. The young Master Gudil was in high spirits, caring not whether they were men or women. At this moment, Gudil was toying with 112 women and a pimp with pink hair, shedding tears with a sorrowful and devoted expression. "Ing, I really love you. I love you so much. I've sullied myself like this all because I love you too much. Miss you too much." At this point, he couldn't help but further degrade himself, increasing the power of the 10-break ancient strength on his hair, causing waves to ripple in the bellies of the women and cowered. The cries grew louder, with some sensitive physiques about to pass out. Meanwhile, as Gudil was degrading himself, Duan Yun had already been carried by the stick army to the bottom of Kuei Star Tower. He wanted to go inside, only to find the way blocked. In front, someone had already been stopped, not daring to move forward, when suddenly a large man appeared, kicking a man in front flying with one powerful kick. That kick could be described as explosive, sending the man flying like a kicked ball, landing heavily on the ground behind, almost rolling down the stair cliff. The big man muttered, "What a pity!" He regretted not kicking the man off the cliff with one blow. Anyone who dares to step over the thunder pool will face these consequences. The big man boasted arrogantly. Duan Yun, seeing this, grumbled, "Didn't he not even cross the line?" The big man's eyes widened like copper bells, saying, "So what if he didn't cross it? I just wanted to demonstrate the consequences, regardless." Honestly, this scene reminded Duan Yun of when he was kicked into the air by the Xuanxiong gang on the street. Duan Yun doesn't hold grudges, But that scene remains crystal clear. The same inexplicable disaster, the same unreasonable behavior. It instinctively filled Duan Yun with anger. Without saying a word, he struck out with one finger. A white light shot from his fingertip, instantly piercing the big man's belly. The simple jade sword finger, one of Duan Yun's regular moves, with immense penetration power, shook out the opponent's intestines. The large man fell to his knees, clutching his belly. Then another white light flew in, this time piercing both his hand and belly together. Everyone saw clearly that it was the man who had just grumbled who did this, and quickly made way for Duan Yun. Duan Yun walked past. The large man, now holding his intestines, was sweating profusely. It was evident he was a martial artist with considerable training, for even after such a heavy injury, he could still clutch his belly and stand. Yet, the expression on his face had completely changed, no longer the arrogance from before. He couldn't help but speak in a humble voice. "Hero, I haven't offended you." Duan Yun imitated the man's earlier demeanor, saying, "So what if you haven't offended me? I just wanted to show my sword finger." Regardless, though a deep bitterness rose in the big man's heart, he didn't dare show it, continuing to speak humbly. "Hero, it was my mistake. This injury is my own doing." After all, he was somewhat connected to the Gu family, working for them, used to thinking that enduring a moment would allow him to recover later. But what he didn't expect was that the person would extend a finger once more, piercing his chest. The shadow of death instantly enveloped the big man. Never expecting, after being so humbly compliant, for the opponent to still escalate the torment, he said, "I'm a Gu family person." With a smack, Duan Yun smashed a fist into his throat. The big man's throat shattered, clutching his neck, face full of disbelief that the opponent really dared to kill him. And indeed killed him. What a coincidence. Today all Gu family people are destined to die. Duan Yun walked straight ahead. At this moment, the big man had a complex expression. In the moment before death, his resentful emotions mingled with a few tinges of regret. The Gu family dies entirely. But I'm not really a Gu family person, not even fit to play their house dog. Am I dying in vain? He was truly curious about who this person really was, daring to speak such treasonous words beneath the building where the Gu family's young master resided, unafraid of being exterminated by the timid young master. Or is this person just a madman? He really wanted to see what happened next. Unfortunately, he was going to die. What a loss. Duan Yun walked directly into the Kuei Star Tower. "Who are you? You don't know the Gu family has reserved the building. Anyone crossing the Gu family's thunder pool?" The man's grand words were only halfway spoken when his throat was pierced by a finger, his eyes about to pop out as he died. At this moment, a person dressed as a steward walked over, saying admiringly, "Hero, what skill you have." It was clear, this person was very tactful, both with his compliment and admiring expression, making it hard to hold a grudge. As they say, you don't hit a smiling face, but there are some whose smiles are still annoying, still invite a beating, yet this person was definitely not among them. He was a very likable, smiling person. "Hero, surely you came here wanting to have fun. It's truly inconvenient with the Gu family having reserved here. Please accept our apologies. This way, apart from this Kuei Star Tower, all the women in Ishui City, including the city lord's wife, Hero, you may indulge as you please, all expenses covered by the Gu family." The person dressed as a steward said. Duan Yun seemed slightly surprised. Even the city lord's wife is available? Naturally. The Gu family's word is as good as gold. Duan Yun couldn't help but ask, "May I ask who you are?" The steward replied, "A main family member of the Gu family, assisting the young master with some trivial matters." What he referred to as trivial matters clearly made him appear proud just from dealing with them. Anyone assisting the Gu family's young master couldn't be a regular person. This was the art of language. Duan Yun pointed at his chest. The steward reacted quickly, hastily preparing to block with a chi vortex palm. But his progress compared to Duan Yun could only be described as the difference between cloud and mud. Even if he reacted, he was still pierced through the heart. Before his death, he had an expression of confusion. Duan Yun said, "I'm just afraid of killing the wrong person." The young hero Duan said he would kill all of the Gu family here, meaning the whole family. Not a single one can be missing. The next moment, Duan Yun already asked, "Are you part of the Gu family?" It was a pale-faced man who quickly shook his head and said, "I'm a pimp. Where are the Gu family members?" Duan Yun asked. The pimp said, "All upstairs. Anyone above the 3rd floor wearing a hat like mine and the girls here, they are all from the Gu family. No one else can go up." At this, he did not forget to kindly add a line. Duan Yun nodded, said thank you, and walked straight upstairs. The Gu family never imagined that in this city, with the young master of the Gu family present in the building, someone would dare to challenge their authority. In a sense, this place was more dignified than even being under the emperor's nose, which is why a few people were stationed at the entrance of this Kuei Star Tower, yet no one dared to cross the line. The reputation of the Gu family was well known to all. Moreover, there was a Mang Jingang guarding the 1st floor. Mang Jingang was that man dressed as a steward. He was originally a somewhat famous martial artist in the martial world, known for a title of Mang Jingang, later became the godson of a Gu family door guard, and gradually could help the young master with some matters. With the support of the Gu family, his Mang Jingang naturally became even tougher. Coupled with his sharp mind, not just the reckless sort as rumored, this Kuei Star Tower would run in an orderly manner, without any problems. As a result, the people of the Gu family on the 3rd floor immediately saw a young, handsome stranger. They were curious about how this person got up here, but they didn't speak. After all, it might be someone familiar to Mang Jingang who let them in looking for someone. Then, at this moment, this handsome man suddenly spoke. "I heard the women of the Gu family are all for sale." Once these words were uttered, there was a moment of silence, then followed by a bout of furious voices. "What did you say? You're seeking death." Among these Gu family people, some wives were indeed originally sold and then followed them to a better life, but Duan Yun's words obviously intended to insult the Gu family. Insulting them would at most get beaten to death, but insulting the Gu family would result in 1,000 cuts. As a result, the famous sword was drawn, and these people were sliced by his fast blade. Sword light came quickly and went quickly, and after Duan Yun walked 20 steps, 20 Gu family members lay in a pool of blood. Indeed, Duan Yun was afraid of killing the wrong person, so he deliberately spoke a provocative word, and once the words were spoken, from the angry expressions of these people, he could tell they were indeed Gu family members, so he killed them all. In fact, he did have one accidental injury. Among them was a pimp, who was not a Gu family member, but he felt proud to serve the Gu family in this closed space. Or rather, he wasn't a Gu family member, but was more of a Gu family member in spirit, referred to as a spiritual Gu family member. So, just now, he heard that word and exploded with anger even more intense than the Gu family members and happened to not be wearing a pimp hat, so he got killed. Duan Yun asked along the way, killed along the way, believing he hadn't killed the wrong person or spared anyone. By now, he had already heard the bizarre sounds coming from that room. Duan Yun used his pupil skill to peer in and saw a mass of stark white women inside, crying out. He quickly realized what was happening, so with a kick of his right foot, he unleashed flirtatious toe strength. The next instant, as the toe strength flew into the room, the cries reached a peak, accompanied by urine spraying out, smashing through the doors and windows. After such a shock, the pink hair slanted to one side, returning to a twin-tail appearance. Gu Dil took a sip of wine and sighed. "You shouldn't have come, but I came anyway." Gu Dil's body shook slightly, causing the brothel girls clinging to him to roll aside instantly. He trembled and forcibly stifled the urge to urinate that surged up. Duan Yun's sneak attack with the flirtatious toe strength had just struck the brothel women, reverberating onto his own body as well. This uncontrollable urination not only awakened the brothel women from their half-dead state, but also triggered a desire to urinate in Gu Dil. However, as a top-notch expert, even holding back pee and poop for 10 days or half a month posed no problem, let alone this small restraint. Nevertheless, Gu Dil was still extremely displeased. annoyed by Duan Yun's sneak attack, as even just a need to urinate made him no longer perfect. Old demon Duan, your timing is really bad. Gu Dil recognized Duan Yun at once. For every day after his wife was captured by this person, he had been looking at this person's portrait, imagining his wife's humiliation and torment. While feeling distress, he also felt an inexplicable thrill. The First Lady of Tianzhou was someone everyone wanted to possess, and it's said that countless people coveted his wife, but aside from him, no one ever dared to lay a finger on Lei Ying. Firstly, because no one dared offend the Gu family, and secondly, because his wife was already very powerful. Yet such a perfect and formidable wife had been beaten to her knees by old demon Duan and was now imprisoned in the demon cave, suffering unknown torments. In Gu Dil's mind, his wife seemed so pitiable. He imagined this 100 times a day, thus deeply memorizing the one who caused his wife's misery, old demon Duan, while this disturbing yet exciting imagination spurred him forward, until he practiced the supreme divine skill, 10 break ancient strength. Even his fear of strangers was cured. Now he loved the bustle. Since then, he who previously had only a 60% chance of winning now had absolute confidence. His plan had been perfect, to defeat this enemy at the height of his momentum, in full view of everyone, reclaiming everything that was rightfully his. But old demon Duan came halfway. He didn't even send a formal challenge, just came like a bandit intercepting a road. What impudence! Truly so rude. In face of this questioning, Duan Yun naturally replied, "Whenever I come is a good time. Any time an evil demon is killed is a good time." Gu Dil couldn't help but laugh loudly and say, "You've revealed your fear." Duan Yun frowned. "You're afraid I would defeat you in front of the world, so you came to me before they knew about it. That way losing won't be too embarrassing." "Old demon Duan, you're done for," Gu Dil suddenly shouted aloud. With deep inner strength, he employed the overlapping sound skill, and since Kuei Star Tower stood at a height at once about old demon Duan, echoes layered and the whole Yishui city heard it. The place was full of Jianghu people who came to watch the Gu family young master, and now the whole Yishui city was abuzz. Old demon Duan has come. Wasn't he fighting in Wangchun City? Goodness, so sudden. Hurry and grab a spot. If you're late, you won't see anything. In an instant, not to mention the Jianghu people who were eating or defecating, even those in the middle of soliciting halted abruptly, paying just half the silver coin and rushing out. Soliciting can't compare to the thrill of watching such a deadly spectacle. In no time, the streets of the mountain city were flooded with people. Those proficient in Qinggong were already jumping on rooftops, determined to secure a good viewing spot. The strong pushed and squeezed through, fearing they wouldn't find a good spot, while the job hustlers found themselves in full demand, some even publicly recruiting, promising to help get to the front line. The more you paid, the closer you got, akin to scalpers reselling tickets. At this time, commoners dared not step out, for the Jianghu people outside were not to be trifled with. Due to jostling and the mountainous nature of the city, some Jianghu guests were even pushed off cliffs to their death. Their expressions before death were ferocious. What a wasted death. They died without even seeing the spectacle, like draining all assets and efforts to marry a wife, only to die from drinking on the wedding day, without even touching her hand. This is Gu Dil's intent. He wanted to defeat Duan Yun in front of as many people as possible. With fewer people, it'd be like wearing fancy clothes in the dark. His beloved famed wife was toyed with by old demon Duan for so long, finally having the assurance of his master. What's the point if there are too few people? This also explains why the Gu family young master, Gu Dil, was quite upset with Duan Yun's sudden visit. In his eyes, it's because the opponent feared losing too miserably. Listening to the other's words, Duan Yun couldn't help but sneer and said, "Are you stupid or what?" Gu Dil's thick eyebrows slightly furrowed. "Don't worry, wait until someone falls. Whoever does will cut off the other's member and stuff it in the fallen's mouth. Then hire a cart to parade it for 10 days or 2 weeks, at least across several provinces. Surely it'll attract all eyes. So you absolutely don't need to worry about that." Duan Yun kindly offered this suggestion. With this suggestion put forward, even Gu Dil, who was always dubbed the perverted demon child, felt perverse. If it really happened, they'd be laughed at by Jianghu people for hundreds of years, not just losing face personally but disgracing the entire family. Seeing Duan Yun confidently proposing such a twisted suggestion, Gu Dil's expression darkened slightly. Originally having 10% assurance, now due to this affecting his mindset, his confidence suddenly dropped to 90%. This guy faces my divine skill with such confidence. Is it ignorance or arrogance? However, Gu Dil quickly regained his composure, and his confidence in the duel increased to 10 results. This guy simply doesn't know the terrifying teeth of the 10-break ancient strength. At this moment, Duan Yun stepped into the room, pushing both palms. The palm wind of the cloud-clearing palm pushed gently, pushing all the women in the room out. This got the onlookers excited beyond measure. The women of Kuei Star Tower, although they were said to be selling themselves, they acted as if they were noble princesses before you if you haven't paid enough, and usually, they would think you are lecherous for just a glance. Without money, even a look felt like a sin. But now these women lie there, and those who normally can't afford such pleasure can't help but scream. Yes, this is freeloading. Who understands the joy of freeloading? At this moment, the onlookers in Ishui City felt that dying now was worth it. After all, even the prelude to the fight was this thrilling. The brothel women fell from the 7th floor of Kuei Star Tower, and under normal circumstances, they would have been killed or crippled. But the clever and gentle palm force of Duan Yun had them rolling before they touched the ground, and they spun like tops after landing. They landed with nothing but dizziness, without even a minor injury. These women, along with the pimp in question, were not members of the Gu family, so young hero Duan naturally wouldn't take their lives. Young hero Duan has always been ruthless only to evil demons, with kindness for ordinary people. These brothel women, originally panicked, immediately turned angry when they saw people staring at them. What's the big deal without money? If you look, you have to pay. Sisters. These poor bastards' gazes are disgusting. The brothel women were indignant at first, but soon noticed something amiss. The vile men who should have been ogling them for free were instead looking upstairs. Not even a glance at them. These men are such a letdown. Who would have thought that old demon Duan would come voluntarily? Were it not for their luck, they wouldn't have seen such excitement. The destination of the Gu family head was Wangchun City, causing the prices of inns there to skyrocket more than tenfold. The crowd spent a fortune to stay in Wangchun City just to witness this excitement. Who would have imagined that old demon Duan would be so unruly, so impolite, as to leave the demon cave and come here? As the window was pushed open, the people below could now see the scene upstairs. The young master of the Gu family, Gu Dil, still sat there, with pink double pigtails on his head fluttering like a deity. And opposite him, standing there was the handsome and evil old demon Duan, looking like a handsome gynecologist, yet exuding an incredibly evil allure. This was a legend who could ravage the entire martial world, ravaging women directly, and men after they were feminized by him. At this time, Gu Dil's right pigtail twitched, forming a 9 character. The next moment, a boom was heard. The roof broke open with 17 holes, and down fell 17 burly men with double pigtails and chest hair. The 17 Arhats of the Gu family. The invincible 17 Arhats. What damn powerful teeth! Those in the know exclaimed aloud. The 17 Arhats stood tall in front of Duan Yun, their figures as imposing as iron towers. Gu Dil leisurely took a sip of wine and said, "If you can withstand 70% of his skills, then you've passed." The 17 Arhats trained alongside young master Gu Dil, immensely powerful, and any sect master would have to treat them with utmost respect and flattery, because, to some extent, this was tantamount to the young master being there in person. But this did not come without cost. The 17 Arhats were formerly the 53 Buddhas, having lost numerous lives testing the young master's skills, hence the name change. And now, they were to test the enemy's depth for their master. Old demon Duan was undoubtedly terrifying. Even defeating him would require a heavy toll. But the 17 Arhats weren't afraid, for to serve the young master, injury and death were an honor. Almost simultaneously, The double pigtails atop the 17 Arhats began spinning. As they spun around, a strong wind arose around the Kuei Star Tower, blowing away the trousers of the women hanging above, adding vibrant colors to the air above the Arhats. The 17 Arhats stepped forward, and even from this distance, the onlookers couldn't help but step back, because the whirlwind felt like an impenetrable wall, or a domain solely theirs, instilling fear, causing retreat, forbidding approach. As if one step forward would lead to an abyss of eternal damnation. Previously, a big man from the bottom of Kuei Star Tower had said that anyone stepping beyond the Thunder Zone would be kicked to death. The Thunder Zone he referred to was related to this. The Gu family would mark a Thunder Zone for others outside, and they had an internal Thunder Zone themselves. The 17 Arhats were the Thunder Zone. Looking at these 17 bizarre-haired giants, Duan Yun couldn't help but feel a slight curiosity and asked, even when they don't reach the Grandmaster level. Individually, these men were far from reaching a Grandmaster's level in cultivation. But standing there, the pressure and aura they exuded surpassed even some major sect leaders. Gu Dil took a sip of wine and said, if these people have been practicing Grandmaster moves all their lives, mastering a few, at least in those few, they can kill a Grandmaster. This was the terrifying aspect of the 17 Arhats. They dedicated their entire beings to mastering these few moves, becoming proficient in assassination of Grandmasters, making them no less than Grandmaster killers. Gu Dil mockingly said, only by getting past them do you qualify to face me. At this moment, the 17 Arhats advanced another step. The air in the entire room seemed to solidify. No, it felt like cold knives, stinging the face. The wind that whipped the woman's trousers was terrifying, capable of turning the air into blades, stripping a person of their clothes, causing even those standing far away to feel extreme fear. As if at any moment, a gust from the air would slice their bodies and the birds in their crotches clean off. Duan Yun remained motionless. However, the true qi within him was circulating. The breaking body sword energy was hidden beneath his skin. The sword qi seemed to have sensed external terror, eagerly poised to protect their master. At that moment, the 17 Arhats advanced another step and shouted, retreat! The sound was like a thunderclap, and their spinning double pigtails appeared divine, horrifying the onlookers into retreat, some dying of fright on the spot. Duan Yun still hadn't moved. The air between him and the opposition distorted, appearing to the onlookers like a white fur, had grown around Duan Yun. That was the breaking body sword energy sensing and emerging from his body. Under these circumstances, everyone felt the pressure on Duan Yun was beyond description, like a mountain crushing down. Or rather, this mountain was made of blades, not just intending to crush but to cut alive. From so far away they felt this, what of old Demon Duan at the very center. He was probably at the end of his rope, on the verge of collapse. Some speculated that old Demon Duan might have been scared silly. Otherwise, why would he remain unmoved? Indeed, those who didn't retreat just now, except for 2 who fainted, the rest all died. Died from fright. Could it be that old Demon Duan had also died of fright? Gu Dil held his night light cup, seated like a monarch, observing the scene before him as if watching a monkey show. Recently, his divine skill had reached perfection. Even the 17 Arhats practicing with him had benefited. With such a solid foundation, how could old Demon Duan, just one man, possibly contend with me? In the next moment, the crowd shuddered in fright, because the seemingly petrified old Demon Duan suddenly moved. This move wasn't to retreat but to step forward. At that moment, the pressure seemed to suddenly reverse on the 17 Arhats, even reducing the pressure on the onlookers behind Duan Yun, causing them to step forward involuntarily. Everyone was tense and excited to death. They felt they were going to die, definitely die. Duan Yun merely took a step forward, and the entire situation seemed to have completely reversed. Originally, the 17 Arhats, whose momentum was as imposing as a rainbow and seemed like they could cut through the entire Kuei Star Tower, hadn't retreated, yet they had already lost in terms of momentum. Their double ponytails atop their heads spun even more violently, and 17 whirlwinds connected with the same spirit, even forming a cloud shape with the brothel women's undergarments floating above their heads. But visibly, their pressure wasn't small, as evidenced by their sweaty faces and the smoke rising from their heads. Though it seemed like they hadn't yet engaged directly, they had in fact exchanged blows hundreds of times in secret. Bound by the same moment across the ends of the earth, suddenly, an Arhat shouted. With this shout, the spinning direction of his double ponytails had already changed form, transforming from an upward swirling sharp sword to downward strokes, resembling a pair of swinging blades facing Duan Yun. Bright moon shining on the river, the moonlight at the bedside. The second and third robust men followed, shouting. The robust men recited poems one by one, and as the verses were spoken, their double ponytails underwent transformations. The gales forming around them also changed. They became sharper, more violent, and fiercer. At that moment, even the onlookers were affected, their emotions turning irritable. As if someone nudged them, they would want to annihilate their entire family. This was killing intent. The 17 Arhats recited poetry, and their killing intent surged layer by layer, as if it had transformed into something tangible. Spring sleep without knowing. All things are happening. All paths are deserted. I want to be a hero. Ha! The seamless transition of poetry into killing intent was suddenly interrupted by an unexpected verse, as Duan Yun suddenly threw a punch. This punch contained the power gained from 2.5 years since Duan Yun's debut, naturally domineering and fierce, enough to destroy several elephants lined up together. However, with the 17 Arhats killing intent connected, one person taking the punch was equivalent to 17 taking it, and they still withstood the punch steadily. But the person who was supposed to continue reciting poetry suddenly stopped, or rather, changed the intended verse to, I want to be a hero. This was a bizarre and even terrifying affair, because Duan Yun had infused heroic spirit into his punch gained from 2.5 years of effort. A profound heroic spirit. 14, what are you doing? Shouted a robust man nearby. They recited poems to condense killing intent, transforming it into tangible evil chi, each person connecting a verse to form a peak. As soon as this person's poem changed, the killing intent also changed, leaving the others dumbfounded. And at this time, Duan Yun had already moved again. Electric sword. Endless. With a swish, the Huangshan great golden sword was already unsheathed, the sword light like an electric light, slashing towards the 14th Arhat. The 17 people who were not grandmasters trained in just a few moves in their lifetime, yet could together achieve a strength surpassing that of a grandmaster. But this strength was not without flaws, or rather, in Duan Yun's eyes, the flaws were still significant. 17 different people, although connected, still required seamless linkage, and just breaking one link would prevent them from achieving their desired effect. In Duan Yun's eyes, these 17 people, though they seemed connected, were not close enough, far inferior even to his heroic wings. Duan Yun was able to have such close heroic wings all due to his own efforts. He strived to become the leader of the group of heroes, truly becoming the core. The fault of the 17 Arhats was that the core was not strong enough. Or perhaps the 17 were too balanced. Even if there was someone leading, they couldn't dominate. Hence Duan Yun seized the opportunity and charged straight in. Although this sword light had electricity, it wasn't dazzling, and the bloodthirsty audience seeing Duan Yun's swordplay for the first time were even a bit disappointed, because this sword didn't look domineering or demonic. But in the next instant, their expressions changed. The sword light fell on that Arhat, but the Arhat was no pushover either, shaking his head, and his top knot of double ponytails cut down like rolling blades. Pa! 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 The rapid slashes, due to the high frequency, could be described as sparks bringing lightning. Even if old demon Duan's sword chi was extremely refined, it still had to be pierced through. Yet a strange scene unfolded at this moment. In just 2 breaths, the Arhat's ponytails had slashed dozens of times, and the originally not very bright sword light emitted rapid hissing sounds, splintering like chains. Sword light like electricity. Sword light was also electric light. In just a short moment, the 17 Arhats were electrocuted dozens of times. Originally, the single bouncing power of the sword light was not enough to break their strong defenses. But at this moment, they were numbed. Because it happened too fast and too much. The body has limits, and if it's too fast, the body can't take it, which is why many breathing techniques emphasize gradual progression. This is also why there's the saying that in all martial arts, speed is unbeatable. White sun day vanishes behind the mountains. Spring goes. Flowers flowers. Ah. Flowers fall. Knowing G. How many? The 17 arhats were electrocuted. Their tongues numb, making it extremely difficult to conjure new evil chi through poetry. And at this moment, Duan Yun's fist had arrived. 16 strange fist. Break! In an instant, one person executed the 15-road chi fist, and because of the speed, he seemed to have 3 heads and 6 arms, and because of the fluidity, these 15-road chi fists seemed like just one road. The most powerful and domineering move. Kill! The 17 arhats sensed the threat of Duan Yun's terrifying fist intent. The threat of being severely injured if not killed. Without any hesitation, they no longer persisted in generating new evil chi, but instead unleashed the already generated evil chi. Their heads bobbed up and down instantly, their faces blurred due to the extreme speed. Their twin ponytails slashed up and down, resembling crazed smokers dancing wildly from Red Tower Mountain withdrawals. Substantial evil chi, carried by the twin ponytails, formed countless strands of black sword light. The sword light was dense and sharp, and in the eyes of the spectators, Duan Yun appeared to be facing a fate of being cut to pieces in an instant. No, even they experienced an illusion of being cut to pieces, with hairs standing on end, some even drenched in sweat. Thrilling. So thrilling. But Duan Yun's fists pressed forward with relentless courage. The 16-road chi has another characteristic besides its peculiarity, which is its fierceness, a ferocity that charges forward unyieldingly. After all, even the most accomplished Sun Daoist was notorious for his harshness, always giving himself a wound before hitting others. When encountering a formidable opponent, he'd stab himself first, then use a rib to fight, and against the toughest foes, he would gouge out an eye, chew it, and then punch. While Duan Yun had infused his own understanding into the 16 strange fist, its raw and fierce aggression remained intact. Not even a mountain of blades and a sea of flames could stop him from punching. Fist power struck out along his arms like 2 coiling, ferocious dragons. The raging dragons and the 1,000 swords collided in a flash. Unlike expected, there wasn't an immediate terrifying explosion sound, but rather a slight pause, as if time itself paused. Nevertheless, it was just the calm before the approaching storm. Boom! The fist power of the raging dragons surged upward, shattering the dense sword chi of the twin ponytails layer by layer. And in nearly the same instant, the heads of the 17 arhats jerked backward. During this backward motion, the hair of several arhats was torn along with their scalps. In this very moment, their strongest weapons, the twin ponytails, were already in the sky. What followed was the piercing shrieks of the arhats. Not everyone can endure such excruciating scalp-ripping pain, not even the toughest man. With just one punch, 7 of the 17 arhats fell and couldn't get up. Along with them fell dozens of spectators. Some of the scattered evil chi blades struck them. Thus, the spectators seemed to have knife wounds on their heads, with one being sliced from crown to mouth, nearly severing the head in half. Even so, he uttered with his relatively intact lips, "Such power! Dying for it is worth it," and died. The moment he fell, a pair of trousers landed on his face, covering him like a shroud. Pierce! The remaining 10 arhats strained their bodies taut, like full-drawn bows, thrusting their heads forward. The immense fear between life and death forced out their limitless potential, enabling them to execute this death-defying strike. Pierce. Stabbing with no regard for life. Stabbing might still allow survival, not doing so with all their might would guarantee death. In just these 2 rounds, they realized old Demon Duan was a peak grandmaster, no less than their young master. He was a contender for the martial arts myth. In that instant, Their long hair lashed out like long staffs, carrying intensely condensed evil chi, pitch black. If previous evil chi was like a dense thousand swords, now it was pitch black thick staves, carrying terrifying penetrating power, causing the half-mountain city to resonate with a piercing sound of penetration. Simultaneously, over 100 brothel girls cried out in ecstasy. Afterwards, they were confused, because this piercing sound triggered their instincts, or occupational habits, creating an illusion of being penetrated. Just by hearing the sound, it had such an effect, so what about Duan Yun facing the 10 black staves? Strange fist, extreme hatred. Duan Yun continued to punch forward tirelessly, with no change in his movements compared to last time. Only this time, the boxer Dharma image of white silk had appeared behind him, punching together with him. Fist power like a cannon collided with the staff-like evil chi. Duan Yun's feet barely lifted off the ground, unmoved, while the 10 arhats who exerted all their strength all recoiled. Their staff-like hair whipped upward, their faces distorted by the permeating fist power, rippling like waves. With just 2 punches, the 17 arhats were defeated. In the next moment, amid the dehydrating shrieks of the spectators, Duan Yun moved again. This time, his hands turned into shadows, his figure electrifying, sweeping past the 10 arhats. As Duan Yun passed, the arhats' clothes exploded into shreds, bodies spinning. By the time Duan Yun returned to his original position, the 10 arhats were standing stiffly, as if wearing a bizarre jumpsuit. In that instant, Duan Yun had ripped off their hair, wrapping it around their privates, making them appear as if wearing pants with a dangling part. The air still echoed with the residual sounds of fist power and penetrating power explosions, though now much softer, rendering the surroundings even quieter. This change dumbfounded the spectators. Calm. A brief calm followed by the sudden frenzy of the crowd. Such power! The ultimate humiliation. This is the ultimate goddamn humiliation. Old Demon Duan is explosively powerful. Don't be fooled by Old Demon's power. It's all an illusion. He's already severely injured. Those martial artists who flocked to Ishui City had mostly followed the steps of young Master Gu Dil of the Gu family. They were originally supporters of the Gu family, of young Master Gu Dil. Yet this time, they instinctively cheered for Old Demon Duan. Only the bloodthirsty storyteller stuck to the original narrative that the old demon was severely injured, trying to crush his morale. The spectators didn't care about his injury, only engrossed in excitement howling. Because not only did Old Demon Duan crush the seemingly unstoppable 17 arhats with his violent fists, he also subjected them to the ultimate humiliation. In the martial world, people loved to witness such extreme humiliation. They wished to see it every day. But viewing from afar is one thing. When such humiliation befell them, they'd dislike it. Because in the martial world, face matters, like the current 10 arhats who lost face. After all, their faces were obscured by the hair wrapped around their privates, thus lacking face. The 7 arhats who collapsed with their scalps ripped off, lay on the ground, initially frustrated and pained why they were the ones to lose their scalps and fall since they were running together, unlike their other 10 brothers. But now they felt fortunate, even happy. Rather than having hair wrapped around their privates like pants, being scalped wasn't so bad. It was truly too humiliating. At this moment, Duan Yun had turned his gaze towards Gu Dil, who remained seated. Gu Dil's expression remained calm. Duan Yun said, "Weren't you afraid of not being conspicuous enough? Later, whoever falls, let him be like this too." Gu Dil gave a sinister smile, saying, "That's a good suggestion, and they should also parade like this for 10 days, then put their parts in their mouths and continue parading." Now his smile became excited, as if he could already see Duan Yun's fate. Duan Yun looked at his confident demeanor and said, "Then come on, come on." Gu Dil remained seated, merely kicking the table away in front of him, saying, the two hadn't started fighting, yet the spectators below were already about to go crazy. They weren't just about to witness an earth-shattering battle between 2 divine skill masters, but also to see a supreme master suffer ultimate humiliation. In cases of ultimate humiliation, The higher the status, the more enjoyable it is, just like fallen girls, the more noble they are, the more thrilling it is, like princesses or queens. At this moment, the 10 arhats with the dangles had lined up on both sides of the building, kneeling there. They maintained the state of extreme humiliation. With their status as members of the Gu family and the soul-tormenting shame, they should have committed suicide, but they couldn't die yet. They wanted to watch this duel before dying. Having met such a fate, life was already worse than death, and not letting them witness a grand spectacle would be a huge loss. So they widened their eyes, not blinking, more bloodthirsty than the bloodthirsty audience. They wanted to witness old demon Duan be beaten to death and humiliated, making the humiliation they suffered less significant. Given their understanding of the young master would win. Young master, give it your all. The 17 arhats were already kneeling on both sides, without changing their posture, still looking utterly humiliated. This is the treatment befitting the defeated. The defeated should indeed be utterly humiliated by the victor, especially when facing old demon Duan. People like old demon Duan are synonymous with kneeling, urinary collapse, and extreme itching. Especially the kneeling and urinary collapse. Even Mrs. Mingqi, who is revered as a holy daughter tributor by everyone, could not avoid it. Their hair now tied with birds is merely a trick of old demon Duan. Yet their eyes still burn with fervor, deciding to watch until the end before dying. Not just because the spectacle is captivating, but also because they believe the young master will win. At this point, young Master Gu Dil indeed moved. He remained seated, but his head swung a little. With that swing, a dim-colored blade light appeared in front of him. This blade light was akin to the sword light that Duan Yun displayed before, not particularly dazzling, but with an imposing aura and containing endless secret strength. The dim blade light passed by, and the air ahead twisted into ripples. The wooden floor on the ground twisted into ripples. Even the pillars beside twisted and shattered. Similarly driven by a horsetail to stir up evil intent blade chi, Gu Dil casually surpassed the accumulated strength of the 17 arhats. Duan Yun swept out with his famous sword, clashing against this blade light. Seeing that dimly blue blade, Gu Dil's eyes turned green, because that was his wife's blade. This blade, like his wife, should have been his glory. Yet it had been seized by old demon Duan and toyed with countless times. With a boom, the famous sword vibrated as if it were a spoon scooping upwards, and that twisted black sword evil surged upwards, crashing through the Kuei Star building. The small trial between the two allowed them to gauge each other's depths a little. In Duan Yun's view, this casual display of sword evil was not only filled with stern evil chi but also embedded with multiple layers of twisted power to the extent that his originally smooth sleeves twisted tightly, binding his wrist. Meanwhile, in Gu Dil's eyes, the opponent effortlessly scooped away his sword evil as if scooping water. A prowess indeed. In that instant, he resolutely launched a snatch attack. Because seeing his wife's blade tightly gripped in another man's hand, he seemed to see his wife being held tightly by the opponent, like a portable tool. This humiliation, sorrow, and even excitement intertwined, causing Gu Dil's fighting spirit to soar. Crazy blade wild chop wind. His body lunged forward like a toad. Amid the onlookers, his head suddenly transformed into a mass of pink illusion. These pink illusions overlapped, making his entire face turn into a pink skull ghost face, dragging dense and fierce sword chi. These sword chi were also pink, appearing like the tender color of a maiden's garment, yet filled with infinite peril. Duan Yun saw this and slashed with his famous sword. Bang bang bang. Boom boom boom. The pink sword chi attacked like a wild storm, while the famous sword in Duan Yun's hand also turned into an illusion, frantically counterchopping. Every clash between the sword chi and the famous sword's blade created violent explosive sounds. The explosion sounded like thunder piercing the ears, and it was extremely dense. The bloodthirsty spectators at the front, even with ears covered, still bled from the 7 orifices. The floor of Kuei Star building had already shattered. The debris wasn't flying fragments but fluttering fluff. The intensity of power generated by the clash was apparent. At this moment, Duan Yun's Huangshan golden sword was unsheathed. The sword and blade released together, because his single blade was already struggling to keep up with the opponent's pace. Just by the opening of this duel, Duan Yun could feel the young master's moves were a strengthened version of the 17 Arhats, all condensing evil into a blade, all enduring blade chi like clouds. It could only be said that the Gu family young master truly deserved to be the new leader of the Gu family. Facing the 17 Arhats, Duan Yun could still easily handle it, but when facing Gu Dil alone, he had to take things seriously. In martial arts, speed cannot be surpassed. This pink blade chi from Gu Dil was so fast it made one's scalp tingle. The blade light from one moment hadn't dissipated before new blade light covered it the next moment. The same area overlapped with blade chi as much as 5 or 6 times, as if someone had slashed 5 or 6 times in an instant. Duan Yun's simultaneous release of sword and blade was also exceedingly fast. Gu Dil was fast and he followed suit. If Gu Dil's blade wind had transformed into a pink tempest, the yellow and blue blades in Duan Yun's hand felt like 2 sticks overturning the sea. Some imaginative bloodthirsty spectators felt like old demon Duan was stirring a sea of pink feces. Because it's only when the latrines are clogged that someone would exert such effort to overturn the river and the sea. With a boom, the originally firm floor of Kuei Star Building finally couldn't withstand the two's devastation, collapsing directly. The falling wooden debris were frighteningly powerful, capable of killing cows. The bloodthirsty spectators squeezed to the front not only had outstanding skills but also rich experience watching top-notch duels. At some unknown time, there were many iron pots atop the heads of the front spectators. These iron pots stood like hats on their heads, defending against the flying wooden pieces. This way, they can survive to watch the entire spectacle. In the bloodthirsty spectators' view, a bizarre scene occurred. Although there was no floor beneath either of them, now in a suspended state, it seemed they stood on transparent ground. Not only supported but their dueling intensified even more. Some sharp-eyed individuals merely discovered a clue, that old demon Duan occasionally stepped his left foot on his right, whereas the Gu family young master puffed up his belly like a toad, creating ripples. This is the reason they can stabilize their stance. But is this still within the realm of martial arts? If these two can maintain their stance like this, wouldn't they be able to ascend step by step to the heavens? In fact, they didn't know that old demon Duan had already gone to the heavens to meet aliens once. Rumble. At this moment, Gu Dil transformed his stance again, lunging forward like a toad. Following him was a terrifying pink sword evil. This pink sword evil also took on a toad shape for a moment, and along with the ghostly face formed by Gu Dil shaking his head, it was truly terrifying. Clang. Like a sudden thunder, Duan Yun's sword and knife crossed to form a scissor shape, resisting this toad's lunge. However, he really couldn't stabilizing his stance out of nowhere by stepping on his left foot with his right foot. His body plummeted downward, smashing through the next layer's wall and landing on the eaves. What power! Pink Toad. Invincible under the sky. Long live the Gu family. Many, many lives long. At this moment, Jianghu people who were here to support and follow the Gu family finally seized the opportunity to shout vigorously. Because anyone could see that the young master of the Gu family had the upper hand. At this time, the young master's gaze turned greener, with a more confident expression, and the certainty that had dropped to 80% returned to a full 100%, shouting, "Old demon Duan, you're destined to lose. Ancient power. 7 breaks." The wildly striking pink evil rain swirled around to form a gigantic pink heaven-reaching stick, chopping straight down. As soon as this chop moved, the surrounding air was sliced apart, surging to both sides like parted seawater. Even the hair of the onlookers within several miles turned into middle parts in an instant. Seeing this, Duan Yun's fighting spirit and true chi rose rapidly, following with a shout, "7-layered spring rain. Spin!" The spinning 7-layered spring rain, like a flowing clear spring, wasn't particularly dazzling, yet it pressed on towards the force of the heaven-reaching stick. Rumbling, the power collided on both sides yet simultaneously issued 7 thunderous roars. Because ancient power had 7 breaks, and spring rain had 7 layers. The overflowing gale lifted the tiles of Kuei Star Tower, and even the weeds on the nearby hillside were shaved bald. Both sides were stunned, because they were both very confident in their strength. "My strength must be above yours," Gudil screamed loudly. "Screw your mother, you're worthy," Duan Yun replied firmly. "Goo goo 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 congregation. Damn it! Damn it! Ancient power. 8 breaks. Spring rain. 8 layers." Duan Yun and Gu Dil shouted simultaneously. Duan Yun gripped his sword with both hands, and behind him, black silk Dharma image Little Yu appeared, slashing together, while Gu Dil's twin tails shot straight to the heavens, as if they would take him soaring up. New spring rain and new ancient power collided again. The terrifying force brought the Kuei Star Tower down by 2 more floors. Without any hesitation, the two continued to shout. "Goo goo 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 congregation. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Ancient power 9 layers. Shatter everything. 9-layered spring rain. Come out. Boom 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 boom." Instantly, the sky darkened, and the sun and moon lost their light. Even the onlookers wearing iron pots all fell, their expressions slightly numb. From extreme excitement to numbness, because even the most exciting thing gets tiring if experienced too much. "Are they still going?" With a slap, Gu Dil spat out a mouthful of blood water. Because his force was too pink, even his blood appeared pink. No, because he exerted too much force, some of his urine splattered out, also pink. A fanatical worshipper of Gu Dil, seeing this, nearly fainted with joy. "Look, the young master peed pink urine. I told you that our wise and mighty master is unique even in excrement and urine. It must be fragrant and pink." At this moment, Gu Dil's forehead revealed pink veins, shouting, "Goo goo 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 ancient power. 10 breaks." Reciting 10 Gu words like a rap, the pink ancient power above his head, like a club, rose with his ponytail, as if to pierce a hole in the sky. "Little Yu. Unification. Love unlimited." Duan Yun, without any hesitation, activated the Dharma image mecha, becoming one with Little Yu. "Ha! Rise!" The pink ancient power crashed down like a giant pillar, while the storm of knives and swords formed by Duan Yun rose from the ground. The two instantly collided. The towering Kuei Star Tower collapsed instantly, and as dust roared up, a new sound emerged. "Ancient power. Continue 10 breaks Fong. Love unlimited. Unlimited." At this moment, even the sharp-eyed onlookers could no longer see the figures of both sides. Only the surging ancient power and rotating knife and sword storm reminding them they were still fighting. Continue the fight. Until the end, the 12-story Kuei Star Tower had completely vanished, leaving a large pit on the ground. Both continued to push their frenzied forces against each other. At this moment, both sides were somewhat surprised. Gu Dil thought that once his 10 breaks ancient power was unleashed, however much of an old demon Duan would collapse like an earthen dog under absolute power. But old demon Duan was withstanding his 10 breaks ancient power, continuing the fight. Duan Yun was also quite surprised because his Love Unlimited was rarely used a second time, as the first usually shredded the opponent to pieces. And by now, he had activated Love Unlimited 5 times in a row, loving so much that Dharma image Xiaoyu felt hot, as if Xiaoyu was about to smoke, and the opponent still wouldn't fall. Duan Yun actually had other contingencies. But what he loved most, and excelled at, was defeating the opponent where they were most proud. So even as his arms numbed, and Xiaoyu heated up, he continued with Love Unlimited. Gu Dil on the other side was equally fired up. Even if using the ancient power too aggressively caused pink poop to come out, he still kept going. Both sides were like they were urging each other in a high-speed car chase, having removed the brakes, unable to stop. In this brief period, neither side knew how many clashes they had had, and the surrounding spectators didn't know how many times they had been shaken until their eyes and ears bled, initially instinctively wiping away the blood, but later became numb. Whatever, they were all going to be shaken to death anyway. And then silence. suffocating silence. The clashes between the two sides stopped at this moment. The previous noise was too massive, too fierce, that the sudden silence seemed terrifying instead. After a while, among the swirling dust, some sharp-eyed individuals spotted shadows. They're still standing. On the edge of the massive pit created by both sides, Duan Yun and Gu Dil stood facing each other. Both were breathing heavily. Duan Yun's hands trembled slightly, as lightning spilled from his fingertips continuously entered his arms, soothing the nerves numbed by shock. Meanwhile, Gu Dil stood there crazily breathing, leading to the excrement stuck to his backside moving in and out with his breathing. At this moment, Gu Dil's eyes glowed green as he looked at Duan Yun, laughing, "Old demon Duan, you truly make me delighted. I never thought you could push me to this extent. Above the 10 breaks of my ancient power, I have further tricks. Do you have any?" Gu Dil madly challenged. Duan Yun retorted, "Can you clean up the poop before speaking?" Upon hearing this, Gu Dil's expression twisted, and he said, "Damn it! Prepare to die." It seems he did care about Duan Yun's remark because at that moment, he snapped off his excrement, looking as though he was about to explode. 17 dragon power. With a loud shout, a frantic force of attraction formed around him. The next instant, the 17 arhats flew over, screaming. Clack, 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 clack. In an instant, the feet of the 17 arhats all pierced into his body. And as Gu Dil operated, the 17 arhats commenced their motion, shriveling. In Duan Yun's eyes, these 17 arhats looked like 17 syringes, injecting medicine into Gu Dil. Indeed, the 17 arhats had been cultivating with Gu Dil since childhood. Not only were they his guards, but also his medicine. Great medicine, visible to the naked eye. His head rose high, becoming pointed, and the twin ponytails emitted a diamond-like crystal pink glow. 17 dragons pull a coffin. Emperor of all time. This is the legendary 17 dragons pull a coffin. Look at his head. It's like it's going to reach the sky. Duan Yun's face turned serious, feeling Gu Dil's power rapidly rising. Yet he couldn't help but quip, "Aren't you afraid of foot fungus with this?" Those 17 arhats had all inserted their feet into Gu Dil's flesh, and those feet looked like needle tips, and these 17 arhats seemed to have very smelly feet, making him quite disgusted and nauseated. Gu Dil's eyes were nearly about to burst from their sockets, angrily shouting, "I snapped my poop off. I released the 17 dragons, and you're asking if I'll get foot fungus? Won't I get foot fungus? You stinky foot things. Thunder Fire Giant Sword. Tong Yu." The massive Thunder Fire sword was drawn by Duan Yun from between his legs, and at the same time, the 17 arhats were just absorbed to death, their fresh death energy converging towards the Thunder Fire Giant Sword. Not all death energy is the same. These 17 arhats suffered unprecedented pain at their deaths, absorbed before seeing the end, filled with a heavy resentment. Gu Dil used their lives as great medicine, and he used their death energy to forge a sword. Thunder Fire Tong Yu Sword, an emperor of all time, buried in the divine tomb. This is an ancient saying, telling the story of an emperor. It is said that he was the most powerful emperor. In this world, martial world factions are divided. Even at the most powerful moment of the court, it is no more than a grand and formidable sect, far from unifying the world. But once there was an emperor, he was not the first emperor, yet he was the most formidable and domineering ruler. Not only did he firmly grasp imperial power, but he was also the pinnacle of martial force. Even the legendary myths of the martial world pale in comparison to this emperor. He was undeniably the number one in the world. Even though the martial world had many heavenly prides and grandmasters, they could only bow their heads in submission before this emperor. This was the peak moment of imperial power, when truly under the heavens all land belonged to the king. Even the martial world, which was a source of pride, could only breathe according to the emperor's whim. Because he was too domineering, his rule over the martial arts was so cruel and bloody that later generations rarely mentioned him. Anyway, when he is mentioned, The mighty martial world seems like a dog with a broken spine, with no pride to speak of. An emperor like this appears once in eternity. The power and authority he held seemed to dominate eternity. But after all, an emperor is human. That godlike emperor eventually died. After the emperor's death, countless martial world factions he had brutally suppressed wanted to find his tomb and corpse to fiercely whip. When you were alive, no one dared offend you. Can't they deal with your corpse? Or, perhaps, the people of the martial world had other ideas. The emperor possessed extraordinary power. His martial arts were considered supernatural. Otherwise, he couldn't have easily overwhelmed the entire world. The divine skill he possessed likewise instilled yearning in countless people of the martial world. They were terribly suppressed by this emperor. Some families saw 9 generations wiped out, leaving just one sapling. Or, perhaps, half a sapling because the emperor had the appetite to split people in half. Yes, split the entire person in half with even just one egg left. The people of the martial world loathed him, yet all aspired to become him. But the tomb of this emperor of all time was never found, which led to the saying, "An emperor of all time, buried in the divine tomb." How can man find the tomb of a deity? However, the ancestors of the Gu family once found the divine tomb. How they entered the divine tomb was unclear even to the Gu family ancestors, and they couldn't stay there too long nor take away anything. Because reportedly, once anything was taken from the tomb, that emperor would come back to life, slaughtering everything. The ancestor of the Gu family entered the divine tomb and saw the emperor's coffin. It was said to be an enormous bronze coffin, pulled by 17 dragons. Those 17 dragons weren't crafted from copper and iron. According to the Gu family ancestors, they were real dragons, though dead. Pulling the coffin were dragon remains. Even if dead for a long time, the body of a dragon does not rot, imposing a tremendous sense of pressure. Also, it was in that divine tomb that the ancestor of the Gu family saw the emperor's martial arts legacy. It was a highly complex, vast, and supreme martial arts tome, described by the Gu family ancestor as the ultimate martial arts. Even though he thought himself to possess extraordinary wisdom and was unparalleled in martial talent, he could only glimpse a fraction of the secrets. When he was forced to leave, he only comprehended the 17 dragon power. That was a cultivation technique extended from the 17 dragons pulling divine coffin, one of the few treasures the Gu family brought out from the divine tomb. This is the secret of the Gu family, known only to the heirs of the family. Also passed down was the cultivation technique of 17 dragon power, which the Gu family called 10 break ancient strength. But 10 break ancient strength is not the entirety of this technique. 17 dragon power is. Yet, the Gu family was far from as powerful as before. Later on, even the strongest family head might not be able to train the 10 break ancient strength, let alone the more complete 17 dragon power. Only the family head of the Gu family, who knows the secret, understands how invincible the divine skill recorded in that tomb is. Even the 17 dragon power is just a glimpse the Gu family ancestor caught from a fraction of the iceberg. At this moment, Gu Dil, the most genius figure of the Gu family in 200 years, gambled his life to decisively unleash the 17 dragon power, because he encountered an extremely troublesome opponent, one that the 10 break ancient strength couldn't defeat. If 10 break ancient strength isn't enough, then rely on this 17 dragon power. Gu Dil roared with anger. 17 lifeless Arhat bodies ejected from his body like cannonballs. But they did not separate from Gu Dil. Visibly, a muscle tendon grew from Gu Dil's body, connecting to these corpses. 17 dragon power naturally relates to what the Gu family ancestor saw, the 17 dragons pulling the coffin. To pull the emperor's dragon coffin. At this moment, the 17 Arhats seemed to be those 17 dragons, pulling Gu Dil. Gu Dil also felt like he was that unbeatable emperor of all time. Old demon Duan kneel. He burst forth from the ground. 17 dragons followed him soaring, and his voice was incomparably domineering. Duan Yun didn't kneel, but inside and outside Ishui City, others kneeled in droves. Even the martial arts experts could only resist the urge to kneel for a moment before having no choice but to kneel. The 17-dragon power of Gu Dil seemed to render the world as if the emperor returned, with a pressure so strong that even gods and ghosts had to kneel.